too deep, easy, so it hurts. Those words would haunt Michael Hayes forever, not because of the pain in her voice, but because of who was bleeding out in his arms that stormy Boston night. A billionaire CEO, a single father nurse, one impossible rescue that would shatter everything they thought they knew about survival, sacrifice, and the razor-thin line between saving a life and losing your own. This is their story. Stay until the end and comment your city. The rain came down like judgment on Boston's financial district, sheets of water turning Beacon Street into a river of brake lights and honking frustration. Inside the executive suite of Armstrong Biomedical's glass tower, Elizabeth Catherine Armstrong stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to her ear, watching the city drown beneath her. $3.2 billion, Ms. Armstrong. Final offer. She didn't flinch. Her reflection in the rain-streaked glass showed what the business world had come to expect. A woman of 42 who wore power like a second skin, her dark hair pulled back with surgical precision, her gray suit sharp enough to cut. But her eyes, those pale green eyes that analysts called ice, held something the quarterly reports never captured: grief, old and carefully buried. "Mr. Chen," she said, her voice carrying that particular brand of Boston Brahmin coldness that came from generations of old money, "I'm going to say this once more, slowly, so your recording devices catch every syllable. Armstrong Biomedical is not for sale, not for $3 billion, not for $30 billion. Do you understand why?" A pause on the other end. Then, "Enlighten me." Elizabeth turned from the window, pacing across the plush carpet toward the wall of frames behind her desk. Awards, patents, magazine covers declaring her the queen of biotech. But her eyes fixed on the photograph hidden among them. A young girl with a bright smile, maybe 14, holding a science fair trophy. Catherine, her little sister, gone 23 years now. "Because some research," Elizabeth said quietly, dangerously, "isn't meant to be owned by the highest bidder. Because the kidney rejection protocols we're developing will save thousands of lives, and I won't risk having them shelved because they're not profitable enough for your shareholders. Because my sister died waiting for a kidney that never came, and I watched her organs fail one by one, and I will be damned if I let anyone turn that kind of suffering into a quarterly earnings strategy." Silence. Heavy and uncomfortable. "That's very personal, Ms. Armstrong." "Yes, Mr. Chen, it is, which is why this conversation is over." She ended the call and stood there, phone gripped tight enough to hurt, staring at Catherine's photograph. 23 years of building this company. 23 years of pouring everything, her money, her youth, her chance at any kind of normal life, into creating treatments that might have saved her sister. And now vultures like Chen wanted to buy it all, package it, optimize it for maximum profit, over her dead body. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Armstrong, your car's ready downstairs, but the weather— I see the weather, Patricia. I need to get home." "Ma'am, the governor just issued a severe weather warning. They're saying I'll be fine. I've driven in worse." She hadn't, actually, but Elizabeth Armstrong didn't admit weakness, didn't show fear, and certainly didn't let a little rain dictate her schedule. She grabbed her briefcase, shrugged into her Burberry coat, and headed for the private elevator, heels clicking against marble, with the confidence of someone who'd spent decades convincing the world she was invincible. The lie was getting harder to maintain. The parking garage smelled like oil and rain, her black Mercedes AMG GT sitting in its reserved spot like a sleek predator. Elizabeth slid behind the wheel, feeling the familiar embrace of leather and German engineering. The engine purred to life, 600 horsepower ready to launch her toward her empty Beacon Hill townhouse, her empty bed, her empty life. She shook off the thought. Loneliness was a choice she'd decided years ago. Success demanded sacrifice. Catherine's memory demanded purpose. Romance, family, connection. Those were luxuries for people who hadn't watched their baby sister's kidneys shut down in a hospital room, who hadn't held a 14-year-old's hand while she whispered, "I'm scared, Lizzie." Elizabeth shifted into gear and headed for the exit ramp. The rain hit her windshield like a fire hose the moment she emerged onto street level. She blinked, momentarily blinded by the deluge, then flicked the wipers to maximum speed. They beat frantically but uselessly against the wall of water. "Bloody hell," she muttered, easing into traffic on Beacon Street. The roads were chaos. Taxis hydroplaning, pedestrians sprinting for cover, traffic lights barely visible through the downpour. Elizabeth navigated it all with the same cool competence she brought to boardrooms, her mind already racing ahead to tomorrow's FDA meeting, the quarterly projections, the endless demands of empire. She didn't see the deer until it was too late. It bounded from the trees lining the parkway, eyes wide and panicked in her headlights, and Elizabeth's combat instincts, the ones honed by years of cutthroat business, screamed at her to brake. She did. Too hard. The Mercedes's rear end swung out on the slick pavement. Time stretched like taffy. Elizabeth felt the steering wheel spin uselessly through her hands, saw the guardrail coming, then the trees beyond it, then impact. The world exploded in a symphony of breaking glass, twisting metal, and her own sharp cry. The airbag punched her in the face, filling the cabin with white powder and the smell of burning chemicals. The car spun, rolled, and came to rest at a sickening angle. Driver's side crumpled against an oak tree that had probably stood there for 100 years, unmoved by one more human mistake. Elizabeth hung suspended in her seatbelt, head ringing, tasting copper. Blood. Her blood. Where? Pain. Sudden and shocking, radiating from her left arm. She looked down and nearly screamed. A shard of windshield glass, maybe 6 inches long, protruded from her forearm, buried deep between radius and ulna. Blood welled around it, dark and frighteningly fast, soaking through her white silk blouse. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, oh God." Her phone, where was her phone? She fumbled with her right hand, searching the wreckage, but everything was glass and twisted metal, and the phone was gone. The door wouldn't open. The windshield was a spiderweb of cracks, and beyond it the rain continued its assault, turning the world into a gray blur. Elizabeth tried to breathe, tried to think, tried to remember the first aid training she'd taken years ago for some corporate requirement. Pressure, apply pressure, don't remove the object. But her right hand was shaking too badly to grip anything, and when she tried to reach for her trapped left arm, pain exploded up her shoulder, white-hot and nauseating. She was going to die here, die alone in a wrecked car on a rainy Tuesday night, not from market forces or hostile takeovers, but from simple, stupid physics. "Help!" she called out, voice already weak. "Someone help me!" But who would hear? The rain swallowed sound, and the crash had thrown her car 50 feet down an embankment, hidden from the road by trees and darkness. Her mind, that brilliant analytical engine that had built a billion-dollar company, began calculating survival odds with cold precision. Blood loss. Shock. Hypothermia from the cold rain seeping through the broken windows. Time until someone noticed she hadn't arrived home. Patricia wouldn't call until morning, and Elizabeth lived alone. So this was it. The end of the great Elizabeth Armstrong, not in some dramatic boardroom showdown, but bleeding out in a German luxury car, miles from anyone who cared. She thought of Catherine, wondered if dying felt like this for her too, this cold, creeping sensation, this dimming of the edges. Wondered if Catherine had been scared at the end, or if the morphine had taken her gently. "I'm sorry," Elizabeth whispered to the ghost of her sister. "I tried. I really..." Headlights. Cutting through the rain, moving slowly along the road above. Elizabeth wanted to scream, to wave, to do something, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The lights passed, kept going. She felt tears mix with the rain on her face, tasted salt and blood and failure. Then the lights stopped. Chapter 2. The Combat Medic. Michael Hayes had seen the skid marks. It wasn't much, just a dark streak of rubber on wet pavement, barely visible in his headlights, but something in his gut twisted. The same instinct that had kept him alive through 2 tours in Afghanistan, the same sixth sense that made him a damn good ER nurse, screamed at him to stop. He pulled his beat-up Honda Civic to the shoulder, hazards blinking, and peered through the rain at the trees beyond the guardrail. Probably nothing, he muttered to himself. Probably just someone who fish-tailed and recovered. But his hands were already reaching for the flashlight in his glove box, and his feet were already carrying him out into the deluge. Because Michael Hayes had learned long ago that probably nothing could mean the difference between life and death. The rain soaked him instantly. His scrubs, dark blue, printed with little cartoon stethoscopes that Lily had picked out because they made her giggle, clung to his skin as he approached the guardrail. He swept his flashlight beam across the embankment. Metal, chrome, the unmistakable shape of a vehicle nose down in the trees. Shit, Michael didn't think. Thinking was for people who hadn't spent their 20s pulling wounded Marines from overturned Humvees. He vaulted the guardrail, boots sliding on wet leaves as he half ran, half fell down the slope toward the wreck. The Mercedes, because of course it was a Mercedes, lay crumpled against an oak tree, driver's side crushed, steam rising from its shattered hood. Through the spider-webbed windshield, Michael could just make out a figure slumped in the driver's seat, not moving. His training kicked in with mechanical precision. Scene safety, check for fire, fuel leak, unstable vehicle. The car groaned against the tree but seemed stable. Fuel smell present but no flames. Good. Patient assessment next. He tried the driver's door, jammed. The passenger side was buried in dirt and debris. Windshield it was. "Ma'am?" Michael called out, using the edge of his flashlight to knock away the loose glass. "Ma'am, can you hear me? I'm a nurse. I'm here to help." A sound. Weak, barely audible over the rain. "Help!" Alive. Thank God. Michael cleared enough windshield to lean through, getting his first clear look at the victim. Woman, early 40s, expensive clothes, blood, Christ, so much blood, soaking her left arm. His flashlight beam caught on the shard of glass protruding from her forearm, and his stomach clenched with professional dread. Embedded foreign object, deep penetration, possible arterial involvement. "Ma'am, I'm Michael. I'm coming in, okay? Stay very still for me." He maneuvered through the windshield opening, ignoring the glass cutting through his scrubs, until he was half kneeling on the dashboard, close enough to see her face. Pale? Clammy. Pupils responsive but sluggish. Classic signs of shock. Also, he couldn't help but notice, absolutely beautiful, even with blood on her face. High cheekbones, strong jaw, eyes that probably commanded boardrooms when they weren't glazed with pain. "Focus, Hayes." "What's your name?" he asked, fingers already finding her carotid pulse. Thready, fast, not good. "Elizabeth," she whispered. "Elizabeth Armstrong, the glass." "I see it. How long ago did you crash?" "I don't... 5 minutes? 10? Any other pain besides your arm, chest, abdomen, back?" "No, just my arm. God, it hurts so much." Michael assessed the wound quickly. The glass had entered at a downward angle through the forearm, probably between the radius and ulna. Minimal external bleeding now, which was either very good or very bad. Good if he'd missed the major vessels, bad if the glass was acting as a plug, and removing it would cause hemorrhage. He made his decision. "Elizabeth, I'm going to stabilize your arm, okay? I need you to trust me and stay completely still." "The glass, can you take it out?" "Not yet. Moving it could cause more damage. I need to..." "Please." Her voice cracked. "Please, it's so deep. It hurts so much. I can't." "I know." Michael reached up, cupped her uninjured right cheek with one hand, forcing her eyes to meet his. Green eyes, he noticed. Scared, but fighting. "I know it hurts. But I've got you, okay? I've got you." Something in his voice, maybe the absolute certainty that came from pulling men through worse in Kandahar, made her nod. Trust from a stranger. The most precious gift in an emergency. Michael stripped off his jacket, using the fabric to carefully wrap around the embedded glass, stabilizing it without applying pressure to the wound itself. Elizabeth hissed through her teeth but didn't pull away. "Good. You're doing great." He pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course, wrong part of Boston, wrong weather. "Okay, change of plans. I'm going to carry you up to the road, flag down a car." "You can't carry me. The steering wheel..." She was right. Her legs were trapped beneath the crumpled dashboard, and her seatbelt had locked in the crash. Michael would have to free her first, which meant moving her, which meant risking further injury. or he could wait for emergency services to arrive. Wait while she bled. Wait while shock deepened into something irreversible. No, not on his watch. Elizabeth, he used his command voice, the one that made panicked patients listen. I'm going to cut your seatbelt and pull you free. It's going to hurt. But I need you to stay conscious, okay? I need you to talk to me. Tell me about yourself. What do you do? I'm a CEO. Armstrong Biomedical. Michael's hands froze on his pocket knife. The Armstrong Biomedical? The kidney research people? You've heard of us? My daughter... He stopped himself. Not the time. He cut through the seatbelt with quick, practiced strokes. Yeah, I've heard of you. Hold on. He braced himself, one arm around her torso, and started to ease her away from the steering wheel. Elizabeth screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore through the night, and Michael felt her body go rigid against him. Easy, he murmured, the nickname slipping out automatically. Muscle memory from the war, when injured men needed a handle to grab onto. Easy, I've got you. Almost there. It's too deep, she sobbed. Easy, it hurts so much. I know it does. But you're strong, Elizabeth. Stronger than this, come on. With one final pull, she came free. Michael caught her full weight against his chest, felt her blood soaking through both their clothes, warm despite the cold rain. He adjusted his grip, getting her into a proper carry, left arm cradled carefully against her chest, right arm around his neck. She was lighter than he expected. Probably hadn't eaten a real meal in days, too busy running an empire. Okay, he said, more to himself than her. Okay, here we go. The climb back up the embankment was hell. His boots slipped on wet leaves. Rain blinded him. Elizabeth's weight, minimal as it was, threw off his balance on the slope. Twice he nearly fell, catching himself at the last second, feeling her flinch against him each time. Talk to me, he demanded. Stay with me, Elizabeth. Tell me about your company. We develop treatments, organ rejection, kidney disease. Why kidneys? A long pause. He thought he'd lost her until she whispered, My sister, Catherine. She died when I was 19, kidney failure. Waited 2 years for a transplant that never came. Michael felt something shift in his chest, recognition of shared grief. He knew that particular wound, the one left by watching someone you loved die from something that shouldn't have killed them. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it. Me too. They reached the guardrail. Michael got them over it and into the middle of the road, rain pouring down, his arms shaking with adrenaline and exertion. Headlights appeared in the distance, a truck moving slowly through the storm. Michael stood in the middle of the road, holding Elizabeth, and didn't move. The truck slammed on its brakes, horn blaring. Help! Michael shouted. I need your phone! Medical emergency! The driver, a burly man in a Patriots cap, jumped out, took one look at Elizabeth's bloody arm, and went pale. But he pulled out his phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. They're coming, he called out. 5 minutes, they said. 5 minutes. Michael looked down at Elizabeth's face, saw her eyes starting to flutter closed, and felt that familiar combat dread. 5 minutes might be too long. Chapter 3. The Hospital. Boston Memorial's ER was controlled chaos when the ambulance screamed in. Michael had ridden with them, refusing to let go of Elizabeth's hand, even as the paramedics worked, even as she drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring things about clinical trials, and her sister and someone named Chen, who'd called at the worst possible time. Now he stood in the ambulance bay, soaked to the bone, watching them wheel her inside under glaring fluorescent lights. A doctor he recognized, Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to the business vulture, took one look at the arm and started barking orders. Trauma 2! Get me OR availability now. Someone page vascular and ortho. Michael? He turned. Marcus Rodriguez, his friend and fellow nurse, stood in the doorway, staring at him like he'd seen a ghost. Dude, you look like you went swimming in blood. Michael looked down at himself. His scrubs were indeed soaked through with Elizabeth's blood, turning the cartoon stethoscopes into something from a horror movie. He laughed, a sharp, slightly unhinged sound. Found a crash victim. Mercedes in the trees off Beacon. She's, he gestured toward the trauma bay. Dr. Chen has her now. You rode in with her? Yeah. You're not even on shift for another hour. I know. Marcus studied him with knowing eyes. They'd served together, both Navy hospital corpsmen, both carrying the particular weight that came from holding someone's life in your hands. You okay, man? Fine. I just... Michael ran a hand through his wet hair. I need to clean up, change, get to work. Or you could go home. You just saved someone's life. I think you've earned... Marcus. Michael's voice came out harder than he intended. I have a shift. I have bills. I have Lily waiting for Mrs. Chen to give me an all clear after this respiratory thing. I can't go home. Understanding flickered across Marcus's face. Lily. The reason Michael worked doubles, picked up extra shifts, lived on coffee and determination. The 8-year-old girl who'd already survived more than most adults, whose kidney transplant 3 years ago had been the best and worst day of Michael's life. Right, okay, go shower in the staff locker room. I'll grab you clean scrubs. Michael nodded gratefully and headed inside, but found himself pausing outside Trauma 2, watching through the window as they worked on Elizabeth. Dr. Chen was examining the glass, talking rapidly to the surgical resident. Elizabeth was awake now, her face tight with pain, but her eyes, those remarkable green eyes, tracked everything with sharp intelligence. Foreign body embedded approximately 4 centimeters, Dr. Chen was saying. No sign of arterial damage, but we won't know until we get in there. Prep her for surgery. Wait! Elizabeth's voice, hoarse but commanding. I need to call my office. Patricia, tell her, ma'am, you're going into surgery. I don't care, I need... She turned her head and somehow, through the chaos and the pain, her eyes found Michael standing in the hallway. Recognition sparked. You, the nurse. You're still here. Michael pushed through the door before he could think better of it. I work here. I'm fine, by the way. Thanks for asking. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Thank you for asking if I was okay first. Fair point. Dr. Chen looked between them, eyebrows raised. You two know each other? He pulled me out of the car, Elizabeth said, carried me up a hill in a storm, held my hand in the ambulance. She fixed Michael with an intense stare. I don't even know your last name. Hayes. Michael Hayes. Well, Michael Hayes. She winced as they shifted her arm. I owe you my life. Just doing my job. No. Something fierce entered her voice. You went down that embankment when anyone else would have driven past. You stayed when you could have left. That's not a job. That's... She broke off, breathing hard. Ma'am, we really need to get you to surgery, Dr. Chen said gently. Elizabeth nodded but kept her eyes on Michael. Will you still be here? After? I'm working the night shift, so yeah. Good. She let them start wheeling her toward the OR. Then I'll see you after, Michael Hayes. I have questions about what kind of nurse carries wounded CEOs through rainstorms. And with that, Elizabeth Armstrong disappeared behind surgical doors, leaving Michael standing in an empty trauma bay, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. He was 3 hours into his shift, working on his 4th coffee and his 12th patient, when his phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen, Lily's babysitter. Michael's heart stopped. He stepped into the supply closet, hand shaking as he answered. Mrs. Chen, is everything okay? Michael, I'm so sorry to bother you at work. The elderly woman's voice sounded rough, congested. I think I'm coming down with something, a cold, maybe flu, and with Lily's immune system. Say no more. I'll figure something out. But what? It was 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. His mother lived in Florida. He had no other family in Boston, no backup plan, no... She can come here. Michael spun around. Marcus stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I heard. My wife's home with the kids anyway. One more won't make a difference. Marcus, I can't ask you to... What? You're not asking. I'm offering. Besides, Lily and Miguel are buddies. They can watch movies or something. He pulled out his phone. I'll text Maria. You call Mrs. Chen back. Tell her to bring Lily to our place. It's on the way to your apartment anyway. Michael wanted to argue. wanted to maintain the careful independence he'd built over the past 3 years, the wall that kept his professional life and his disaster of a personal life separate. But Lily came first, always. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That's what family does, hermano. Family." The word hit Michael harder than it should have. He had Lily, and she was everything, but sometimes the weight of single parenthood felt like drowning on dry land. Having someone like Marcus, someone who just helped without judgment or pity. His phone buzzed again. A text from the surgical floor. "Armstrong out of surgery. Stable. Asking for you?" Michael stared at the message. A billionaire CEO was asking for him. The woman he'd pulled from a wreck 3 hours ago, who should be unconscious from anesthesia, was apparently awake and requesting his presence. He shouldn't go. He had patience. He had responsibilities. He had every reason to stay away from Elizabeth Armstrong and her intense green eyes, and her grief over a dead sister that felt too familiar, too raw, too much like looking in a mirror. He went anyway. The post-op recovery room was dim, machines beeping softly, and Elizabeth lay in bed 4 with her left arm wrapped in pristine white bandages elevated on pillows. An IV drip fed clear fluids into her right arm. She looked smaller somehow, without the armor of power suits and designer heels. She also looked wide awake. "You're supposed to be sleeping," Michael said, keeping his voice soft. "Gave me the good drugs." Her words slurred slightly. "But I needed to stay awake. In case you came." "Why?" "Because." She turned her head on the pillow, fixing him with those eyes. "Because I need to thank you properly. Because I need to know why you came down that hill." Michael pulled up a chair, sitting at her bedside. "I told you, it's my job." "You weren't working yet." "I'm a nurse. I'm always working." "That's not an answer. Maybe it's the only one you're getting." They sat in silence, the machines filling the space between words. Then Elizabeth said, very quietly, "You have someone. A daughter, you said, in the ambulance." Michael went still. "How did you—" "You mentioned Armstrong Biomedical's kidney research, said my daughter, and then stopped yourself." Her eyes sharpened despite the drugs. "She's sick. Kidneys." It wasn't a question, and Michael found himself answering anyway, pulled by something in her voice, the same grief he'd heard when she talked about Catherine. "Lily, she's 8, had a transplant 3 years ago. Doing great mostly, but..." He rubbed his face. "Transplants are never perfect. We manage. We're lucky." "Lucky?" Elizabeth repeated the word like it tasted strange. "Because she got a kidney, or because she's still here?" "Both, neither. I don't know. I understand that." Elizabeth closed her eyes. "Catherine was 14 when she got sick. They told us she could wait 6 months, maybe a year for a donor. It took 2 years. By then her kidneys were too far gone. The transplant failed within 6 months, and her body just gave up." "I'm sorry." "Everyone always is." She opened her eyes again. "But you know what it's like to watch someone you love fight for every day, to wonder if this is the day the transplant fails, if this is the day you lose them." Michael swallowed hard. "Yeah, I know. That's why you came down that hill. Not because you're a nurse, because you can't stand the thought of someone dying when you could have helped." She'd seen right through him, stripped away the professional competence to the raw terror underneath. The fear that every moment he wasn't saving someone, he was failing Lily. That every life he saved bought him absolution for all the moments he couldn't fix his daughter's broken kidney. "You should sleep," he said, standing up. "The drugs won't last forever, and you're going to hurt like hell when they wear off." "Michael," he paused at the door. "Thank you. Not just for tonight, for understanding." He nodded and walked out, feeling like he'd just survived something more dangerous than any rainstorm. The particular kind of connection that happened when 2 damaged people recognized each other's wounds. He was filling out charts in the nurse's station when his phone rang. Marcus's wife, Maria. "Michael, hey, everything's fine, but..." His heart stopped. "But what?" "Lily's running a fever, just low grade, and she's acting fine, but given her history, I thought you should know." Michael was already moving, grabbing his jacket, his keys, his... Hayes! Dr. Chen appeared at his elbow. Where are you going? My daughter. She's sick. I need to... Go. Dr. Chen waved him off. Rodriguez can cover. Go take care of your kid. Michael ran. He made it to Marcus's house in 15 minutes that should have taken 30, taking corners too fast, heart pounding. Maria met him at the door, Lily bundled in blankets on the couch behind her, looking small and feverish but smiling when she saw him. Daddy! Michael crossed the room in 3 strides, pressing his hand to her forehead. Warm. Not dangerous, but with Lily's compromised immune system, warm could become dangerous fast. Hey, baby girl, how do you feel? Tired. A little cold. She snuggled against him. Mrs. Chen was sick, so I came here to play with Miguel. We watched Encanto twice. That sounds fun. Daddy? She looked up at him with eyes too wise for 8 years old. Am I going to be okay? The question every transplant parent dreaded, because the honest answer was, I don't know, baby. I hope so. I pray so. But I don't know. Yes, Michael lied, you're going to be fine. But we need to go home now. Get you into your own bed. He thanked Marcus and Maria would have to figure out how to repay them later, and carried Lily out to the car. She fell asleep on the drive home, her head against his shoulder, breathing steady but congested. Their apartment was small. 1 bedroom for Lily, 1 for him, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. But it was theirs, paid for with double shifts and careful budgeting, and the particular kind of poverty that came from medical bills even insurance didn't cover. Michael tucked Lily into bed, took her temperature, 100.2, higher than he liked, and sat watching her sleep, laptop open to her medical portal. Her last labs had been 6 weeks ago. Creatinine slightly elevated but stable, GFR holding at 60%. Not great, but manageable. A fever could be nothing, or it could be the start of rejection. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Elizabeth Armstrong. Patricia tracked down your number through hospital HR. I hope that's not inappropriate. I wanted to check that you made it home safely. Michael stared at the message. At 2 a.m, still drugged from surgery, a billionaire CEO was texting him to make sure he was okay. Home safe. You should be sleeping, so should you, but I suspect we're both sitting up worrying about things we can't control. He shouldn't respond, shouldn't encourage whatever this was, this strange connection forged in blood and rain and shared understanding of loss. My daughter has a fever, not serious, probably just a cold, but with her kidney, you worry about everything, I understand. Catherine was the same way after transplant. Every sneeze felt like a crisis. It kind of is. I know. Would it help if I told you about the research we're doing? The anti-rejection protocols? Are you seriously trying to pitch your company at 2 a.m. while high on pain meds? I prefer to think of it as building therapeutic rapport through shared scientific interest, but yes, basically. Michael laughed. Actually laughed, for the first time in hours. They texted until dawn, Elizabeth describing cutting-edge research into tolerance protocols that could reduce anti-rejection drugs, Michael asking questions he'd been too afraid to voice to Lily's doctors. At some point, it stopped being about medicine and became about 2 people who'd been alone too long, finding unexpected kinship in the digital dark. When Lily woke up at 6, fever down to 99.1, Michael's phone held 72 messages from Elizabeth Armstrong, and his chest held something dangerous. Hope. Chapter 4. The Meeting. 3 days later, Michael found himself standing outside Armstrong Biomedical's glass tower, Lily's hand clutched in his, wondering what the hell he was doing. Is this where the kidney lady works? Lily asked, staring up at the building with wide eyes. Yeah, baby, this is her company. Why are we visiting? Good question, because Elizabeth had texted asking if he'd like to tour the research facilities? Because she'd mentioned wanting to meet Lily? Because Michael had spent 72 hours thinking about a woman he barely knew, and that was dangerous and he should shut it down. But instead he was walking through glass doors into a marble lobby that probably cost more than his entire apartment building? Because she wants to tell us about the research she's doing, research that might help you. Lily squeezed his hand. Will it make my kidney work better? Maybe. I don't know, sweetie, but it's worth learning about. The receptionist, Patricia, according to her nameplate, smiled warmly at them. Mr. Hayes, Miss Armstrong is expecting you, ninth floor executive suite. The elevator was all glass and chrome, rising smoothly through the building's atrium. Lily pressed her face against the window, watching Boston shrink beneath them. Daddy, are you nervous? A little. Why? Because he was a single-father nurse with barely 2 pennies to rub together, about to have coffee with a billionaire in her corner office? Because Elizabeth Armstrong lived in a world so far removed from his that they might as well be different species? Because he couldn't shake the memory of holding her in the rain, feeling her trust settle into his bones like something permanent? Just am, baby. The elevator opened onto the 9th floor. The executive suite was all clean lines and glass walls, modern art on pristine white surfaces. And there, rising from behind a desk the size of Michael's kitchen, was Elizabeth. She looked different in her natural habitat. The power suit was back, charcoal gray this time, and her hair was pulled into that severe bun. But her left arm was still bandaged, held carefully against her side, and when she saw them, something in her face softened. Michael, and this must be Lily. Lily stepped forward with the particular fearlessness of children who'd spent too much time in hospitals. Hi. Are you the lady my daddy saved? Elizabeth's eyes flicked to Michael, amusement dancing in them. Yes, I am, and I'm very grateful to him. He saves people all the time. It's his job. So he tells me, but I think he's being modest. Elizabeth came around the desk, moving carefully with her injured arm and crouched to Lily's level. I heard you have a very special kidney. A transplant? Yep. From someone who died. Daddy says that person was very brave to help me. Your daddy's right. Elizabeth's voice went soft. I had a sister who needed a kidney too. She didn't get one in time. Lily studied her with those 2 wise eyes. That's sad. It is, which is why I started this company, to help other kids like you. And my sister. Elizabeth stood, gesturing toward her office. Would you like to see what we're working on? For the next hour, Elizabeth Armstrong, CEO, billionaire, ice queen of Boston business, sat on the floor of her office with an 8-year-old girl using crayons and paper to explain complex immunology. Michael watched from a chair, coffee forgotten in his hand, as Elizabeth talked about T cells and antibodies and tolerance protocols, translating graduate-level science into language a child could understand. Lily was enraptured. So if the T cells learn to like my kidney, she said slowly, working through it, then I won't need as much medicine? Exactly. Right now you take medicine that tells your whole immune system to be quiet, right? But that makes you sick more easily. I get colds all the time. I know. But what if we could teach just the T cells that attack your kidney to stop, without making the rest of your immune system weak? Lily's eyes went wide. Could you do that? We're trying. It's hard and it takes time, but... Elizabeth glanced up at Michael. But I think we're close. Maybe 2 or 3 years until clinical trials. 2 or 3 years. Lily would be 10, 11. Still young enough to benefit from protocols that could extend her transplant's life, reduce the toxic burden of immunosuppressants, give her a chance at something resembling normal. Can I see the lab? Lily asked. Elizabeth smiled, a real smile, not the polished PR version. I think that can be arranged. They toured the facilities, Elizabeth pointing out centrifuges and cell cultures, researchers in white coats who waved at their boss and smiled at the curious girl peppering them with questions. Michael trailed behind, watching Elizabeth watch Lily, seeing something transform in the CEO's face. She was seeing Catherine, the sister who'd loved science fairs and biology and had dreamed of becoming a doctor before kidney disease stole that future. In Lily, bright and curious and fighting for every day, Elizabeth was getting a glimpse of what her sister might have become. Mr. Hayes? Patricia appeared at his elbow. Ms. Armstrong asked me to give you this. She handed him a folder. Inside, paperwork for Armstrong Biomedical's Patient Assistance Program, a referral to the company's research coordinator, and a personal note in Elizabeth's precise handwriting. Lily reminds me of Catherine, brilliant, brave and full of questions. I'd like to help, if you'll let me. Not as a CEO. As someone who understands what you're fighting for. E. Michael's throat tightened. He looked up to find Elizabeth watching him from across the lab, Lily chattering beside her about cellular membranes, and something passed between them. Acknowledgement. Understanding. The particular bond of two people who'd seen loss and refused to surrender. "Daddy!" Lily called out. "Mrs. Elizabeth says there's a clinical trial starting next year for kids with transplants. Can I be in it?" Michael met Elizabeth's eyes. She nodded slightly, seriously, making him a promise without words. "I'll keep her safe. I won't let what happened to Catherine happen to Lily." "We'll talk about it, baby." But he already knew the answer. They left as the sun set over Boston, Lily clutching a stuffed kidney plushie, an actual kidney-shaped stuffed toy that Elizabeth had pulled from a cabinet of promotional items, and Michael carrying the folder that might change everything. "I like her," Lily said sleepily as they drove home. "She's nice, and she's not scared of kidneys." "No, she's definitely not scared of kidneys." "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Do you like her too?" Michael's hands tightened on the wheel. "She's helping us. That's what matters." "But do you like her?" Out of the mouths of babes, 8 years old and already too perceptive for his own good. "Yeah," Michael admitted. "I think I do." "Good. You should have friends. You're always alone." "I have you. That's different. You need adult friends. People who aren't me." Lily yawned. "Miss Elizabeth is sad, I think. Under all the smiling, like she lost something important." "She did. Her sister." "Then maybe you can both be less sad together." Simple wisdom from a child who'd spent half her life learning that bodies broke and people left and sometimes love meant losing. But Lily was right. He'd been alone for 3 years, ever since Sarah walked out, unable to handle the stress of a sick child, the poverty of medical debt, the constant fear. Maybe it was time to stop being alone. His phone buzzed at a red light. "Elizabeth. Thank you for bringing Lily today. She's extraordinary. Like someone else I knew. Thank you for the assistance program paperwork, and for treating her like the scientist she wants to be." "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why did you really come down that embankment?" The truth this time. Michael sat at the red light, Lily dozing beside him, and typed the words he hadn't admitted to anyone, maybe not even himself. "Because I know what it's like to be drowning and need someone to pull you out. Because I'm tired of losing people. Because something in me couldn't walk past and leave you there." A long pause. Then, "That's what I thought. And that's why I'm going to help Lily. Because you saved my life and now I want to save hers. Not as repayment. As choice." The light turned green. Michael drove home, heart full of something that felt dangerously like hope, while Lily slept and held her kidney plushie and dreamed of T-cells learning to be kind. Behind them, in a glass tower, Elizabeth Armstrong stood at her window and watched the city lights, thinking about a nurse who'd carried her through a storm and a little girl who reminded her why she'd built this empire in the first place. Some rescues, she was learning, didn't end when the ambulance drove away. Some rescues were just beginning. The weeks that followed took on a rhythm that felt both strange and inevitable. Elizabeth found herself texting Michael at odd hours. Medical questions at first, then questions about Lily's progress, then eventually just thoughts about the rain, the city, the particular loneliness of late nights when the work was done, but sleep wouldn't come. Michael responded with the same careful honesty he'd shown in the wreckage, never hiding behind platitudes, never pretending their situations were anything but complicated. On a Thursday morning 3 weeks after the crash, Michael's phone rang during his morning shift. Elizabeth's name flashed on the screen, and he ducked into the supply closet to answer. "Little early for you, isn't it?" he said. Elizabeth rarely called before 9, her schedule packed with meetings that started at dawn. "I've been up since 4. Her voice carried an edge he hadn't heard before, excitement mixed with something harder to define. "Michael, I need you to bring Lily in today. Can you get away?" His stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Did something happen with—" "Nothing's wrong. The opposite, actually." Papers rustled on her end. "The FDA just granted us fast-track designation for the pediatric tolerance protocol. We can start patient recruitment immediately. Michael's world tilted. You said clinical trials were 2 years away. I thought they were, but the data from our phase 1 adult trials came back stronger than expected. And with the fast track status, Michael, we could start treating patients in 6 months, maybe less. 6 months. Half a year between Lily and a treatment that could change everything. What do you need? He asked. Initial screening, blood work, tissue typing, full medical history review. If Lily qualifies, and based on what you've told me she should, she could be among the first cohort. Elizabeth paused. I'm not promising miracles. This is experimental. There will be risks. There are always risks. Not like this. We're essentially reprogramming her immune system. If something goes wrong, we'll be where we already are. Fighting. Michael leaned against the supply shelves, closing his eyes. When do you need us? 2 o'clock. I've cleared my afternoon. I want to walk you through everything personally. Elizabeth. He kept his voice low. Why are you doing this? And don't say it's standard procedure, because I know CEOs don't personally screen trial participants. Silence stretched between them. Then quietly. Because Lily deserves someone who'll fight as hard for her as you do. And because I couldn't save Catherine, but maybe I can save her. The honesty in her voice hit him like a physical blow. This wasn't charity. This was redemption. We'll be there at 2, Michael said. He hung up and stood in the supply closet, surrounded by bandages and antiseptic, trying to process what this meant. Hope had always been dangerous with Lily. Every good lab result, every stable month felt like borrowed time, waiting for the inevitable crisis. But this was different. This was Elizabeth Armstrong, who'd built an empire on determination and grief, offering them a chance at something better. He found Marcus at the nurse's station. I need to leave early today. Family thing. Marcus looked up from his charts, concern flickering across his face. Lily, okay? Yeah, better than okay, maybe. Michael couldn't quite keep the tremor from his voice. Elizabeth, Ms. Armstrong, her company just got FDA approval to start clinical trials. She wants to screen Lily today. The tolerance protocol? The one she was telling you about? Marcus let out a low whistle. That's huge, man. I know. You trust her? Armstrong, I mean. Michael thought about Elizabeth in the rain, blood soaking through her blouse, trusting him to save her. Thought about her sitting on the floor of her office, explaining immunology to an 8-year-old with crayons and infinite patience. Thought about late-night texts where she dropped the CEO mask and just talked, person to person, about fear and loss and the impossible weight of trying to save people you loved. Yeah, he said, I do. Then go. I'll cover your patients. Michael made it to Lily's school by noon, signing her out with the excuse about a doctor's appointment that wasn't technically a lie. She bounced into the car, backpack covered in stickers of kidneys and hearts, an odd collection that made other kids stare but made Lily proud. Are we going to see Ms. Elizabeth? She asked immediately. How did you... You're wearing your nice shirt, the blue one. You only wear that for important things. Lily buckled her seatbelt with practiced ease. And you have that look, the hopeful, scared look. I don't have a look. You totally do. Your eyebrows go up and your mouth gets tight. She demonstrated, scrunching her face comically. Like that. Michael laughed despite himself. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? Daddy? Lily's voice went serious. Is this about the trial? The one Ms. Elizabeth told us about? He should have known she'd remember. Lily forgot nothing related to her kidney. Every medication change, every lab value, every whispered conversation she'd overheard between Michael and her doctors. Yeah, baby, it is. And I might get to be in it? Maybe, if the doctors think it's safe, if your body is ready. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. How do you feel about that? Lily was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at Boston rolling past. Finally, I'm tired of being sick, Daddy. I want to be normal. I want to go to birthday parties without worrying about germs. I want to not take so many pills. Her voice dropped. I want you to stop being so scared all the time. Michael's throat closed. He thought he'd hidden it better. The constant terror that lived in his chest, the fear that woke him at 3 a.m. to check if Lily was still breathing. But of course she knew. She'd always known. I'm sorry, baby. Don't be sorry. Just, if this trial can make things better, I want to try. Even if it's scary. Even if it's scary, Michael repeated. His brave girl. His impossible, brilliant, brave girl. They pulled into Armstrong Biomedical's parking garage, and Michael took a moment to compose himself before heading inside. Elizabeth met them in the lobby herself. No assistant, no entourage. She'd traded the power suit for slacks and a cashmere sweater, her injured arm free of bandages now but still moving carefully. Lily. Elizabeth's whole face transformed when she smiled at his daughter. I'm so glad you're here. Ms. Elizabeth, your arm looks better. Thanks to your father. He's very good at his job. Elizabeth's eyes met Michael's, something warm passing between them. Shall we head upstairs? I have the whole medical team waiting to meet you. The clinical research floor was different from the executive suite. Less glass and chrome, more hospital functionality. But the team Elizabeth had assembled treated Lily like the small miracle she was. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, the principal investigator, knelt to Lily's level and explained every test before they performed it. The phlebotomist let Lily choose her bandage color. The research coordinator gave her a folder with information written specifically for kids, complete with cartoon T-cells wearing tiny boxing gloves. Through it all, Elizabeth stayed close, answering Lily's endless questions with the patience of someone who genuinely loved talking about immunology. Michael watched them together, the billionaire CEO and the 8-year-old transplant patient, and felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't about gratitude or obligation anymore. Elizabeth cared about Lily. Really cared. After 2 hours of tests, Dr. Okonkwo pulled Michael aside while Lily explored the research lab with Elizabeth. Mr. Hayes, I need to be frank with you about what we're proposing. Michael braced himself. I'm listening. Lily's current immunosuppression regimen is working, but her creatinine has been creeping up. Not alarmingly, but enough to suggest we're starting to see chronic rejection changes. At her current trajectory, she might need another transplant in 5 to 7 years. I know. Michael had been watching those numbers, calculating the same grim timeline. This protocol could change that. If successful, we could essentially retrain her immune system to recognize the transplanted kidney as self rather than foreign. She'd still need some immunosuppression, but dramatically reduced. Better quality of life, fewer infections, longer graft survival. And if it's not successful? Dr. Okonkwo met his eyes steadily. Worst case? Acute rejection. We'd have to rescue her with high-dose steroids, possibly plasma exchange. There's approximately a 15% chance of significant complications. But Michael, and I'm speaking as a clinician, not a researcher, that risk exists every day with her current treatment. At least this way, we're trying for something better. 15%. Michael had faced worse odds in Afghanistan, had made life or death decisions with less information. But this wasn't his life, this was Lily's. Can I have time to think about it? Of course. The consent process takes weeks anyway. Read everything, ask questions, talk to Lily. Dr. Okonkwo squeezed his shoulder. For what it's worth, if she were my daughter, I'd say yes. Michael found Elizabeth and Lily in the main lab, peering through a microscope at slides of T-cells. Lily was narrating what she saw with the confidence of a future scientist. That one looks angry, like it wants to fight. That's exactly what it wants to do, Elizabeth said. It's a killer T-cell. See how it's bigger than the others? That's because it's activated, ready to attack something it thinks is dangerous. Like my kidney? Sometimes, yes, but we're teaching it not to. Lily looked up from the microscope, her expression serious. Will it hurt? The teaching part? Elizabeth glanced at Michael, seeking permission to answer honestly. He nodded slightly. A little bit, yes. You'll need some extra medications for a while, and you'll have to come to the hospital more often for checkups. But Lily, Elizabeth crouched beside her. I promise we'll do everything we can to keep you safe. Your dad will be here. I'll be here. A whole team of doctors who care about you will be here. Because you couldn't save Catherine? The bluntness of the question made Michael wince, but Elizabeth didn't flinch. Yes, because I couldn't save my sister, and I don't want any other sister or daughter to go through what she did. Lily considered this with the gravity of someone much older. Okay, I want to try, but only if Daddy says it's okay. Two pairs of eyes turned to Michael, one green and intense, one brown and trusting. The two most important people in his suddenly complicated life, waiting for him to decide their collective future. Let me read everything first, he said. Then we'll decide together, all three of us. Elizabeth smiled. That's all I ask. They stayed another hour, Elizabeth walking them through patient education materials, Dr. Okonkwo answering Michael's increasingly technical questions. By the time they left, Michael's head was swimming with information about regulatory T cells and tolerance induction and monitoring protocols. In the parking garage, Elizabeth walked them to Michael's car, moving with the careful grace of someone still healing. The October evening had turned cold, their breath misting in the concrete space. Thank you, Michael said, for all of this, for treating her like she matters. She does matter, more than you know. Elizabeth hugged her arms against the chill. Michael, I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way. His guard went up automatically. Okay. This trial, it's not charity. Lily qualifies on her medical merits alone. She has the right HLA profile, the right timing post-transplant, the right degree of stable function with room for improvement. I would have enrolled her even if we'd never met. But we did meet. Yes, and that matters to me. Elizabeth's voice dropped. It matters more than it probably should, which is why I need you to know, if you ever feel like I'm overstepping, or if you want her care transferred to someone else on the team, I'll understand. I won't take it personally. Michael studied her face in the dim garage lighting, saw the vulnerability beneath the professional competence, the fear that she was doing this for the wrong reasons, letting personal grief cloud clinical judgment. Do you think you're overstepping? He asked. I don't know. Am I? No. He said it firmly, needing her to hear it. You're doing what doctors should do, seeing patients as people, not cases. Caring about outcomes because they matter, not just because they look good in publications. Lily needs someone like you, someone who understands what's at stake. And what about what you need? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was quite ready to explore. Michael thought about lonely nights, about going years without adult conversation that didn't revolve around medical schedules, about the peculiar isolation of single parenthood. He thought about Elizabeth's texts at midnight, her willingness to listen without judgment, the way she made him feel less alone. I need someone who won't give up on her, he said carefully. Everything else, we can figure out as we go. Elizabeth nodded, but something flickered in her eyes. Disappointment? Relief? Both? Daddy! Lily called from the car. I'm cold! Coming, baby. Michael turned back to Elizabeth. I'll read everything tonight. We'll talk tomorrow? Tomorrow, she agreed. He drove away watching her in the rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking garage, and wondered when exactly he'd stopped thinking of her as the woman from the crash and started thinking of her as just Elizabeth. That night, after Lily was asleep, Michael spread the consent documents across his kitchen table and started reading. The medical terminology was familiar from his nursing background, but the implications were staggering. They wanted to infuse Lily with modified regulatory T cells, essentially teaching her immune system new rules. The process would take months, require weekly monitoring, carry risks that made his stomach clench. But the potential benefits, God, the benefits. Reduced immunosuppression, fewer infections, a kidney that might last into her 20s, her 30s, longer, a chance at something resembling a normal childhood. His phone buzzed. Elizabeth, as if she'd sensed him thinking about her. You're reading the consent forms, aren't you? How did you know? Because I'm reading them too, making notes, thinking about every possible thing that could go wrong and how we'll handle it. Michael leaned back in his chair, phone pressed to his ear, surrounded by medical documents. This is insane, right? What we're considering? Completely insane. Revolutionary medicine usually is. And you're sure about this? About the science? I'm sure we have the best team in the country. I'm sure the phase 1 data exceeded every expectation. I'm sure that doing nothing guarantees Lily will need another transplant before she's 20. Elizabeth paused. What I'm not sure about is whether I'm pushing too hard because I want this to work so badly. For her, for Catherine, for you. For you. The words settled into Michael's chest, warm and dangerous. I trust you, he said simply. Why? You barely know me. I know you came down that embankment when anyone else would have driven past. I know you sat on the floor of your office teaching my daughter about T-cells. I know you text me at midnight because you're worried about trial protocols and patient safety. He stared at the consent forms. I know you care, Elizabeth. That's enough. Silence on the other end. Then, so quietly, he almost missed it. No one's trusted me like this in a very long time. Then maybe it's time someone did. They talked until 2 in the morning, Elizabeth walking him through every section of the consent, answering questions he hadn't even thought to ask. Somewhere around 1:30, the conversation drifted from medicine to life. Her empty townhouse, his tiny apartment, the particular loneliness of being successful or struggling while everyone else seemed to have figured out this thing called living. Do you ever regret it? Elizabeth asked. Raising Lily alone, you could have, found someone to help. Michael thought about Sarah, Lily's mother, who'd left when the diagnosis came. Who'd looked at their sick baby and decided motherhood was too hard, too scary, too much. Who'd signed away her parental rights and disappeared into a new life that didn't include medical crises and crushing debt. Never, he said. Not once. Lily is the best thing that ever happened to me, even with everything else. You're a good father, Michael. I'm trying to be. You're succeeding. Elizabeth's voice carried a wistfulness. Catherine and I used to dream about families. She wanted 4 kids, a big chaotic house full of noise and love. I wanted, well, it doesn't matter now. I chose this instead. A bitter laugh. An empire of glass and steel, very fulfilling. Is it fulfilling? It was, before the crash, before I met you and Lily and remembered what I was actually fighting for. Papers rustled. Now I'm not sure what I've built. A monument to grief? A very expensive way to avoid dealing with loss? Or a way to save thousands of people who won't have to lose their sisters? You're kind, Michael Hayes. I'm honest. There's a difference. They hung up around 3, Michael's eyes burning with exhaustion, but his heart lighter than it had been in months. He checked on Lily, still sleeping peacefully, kidney plushie clutched to her chest, and finally let himself admit what he'd been avoiding for weeks. He was falling for Elizabeth Armstrong. Not because she was rich or successful or beautiful, though she was all those things, but because she'd sat in a wrecked car, bleeding, and still managed to worry about other people. Because she treated his daughter with respect and genuine affection. Because she understood loss in a way most people didn't, and she'd turned that understanding into something purposeful instead of letting it destroy her. It was the worst possible timing. The most complicated situation. A billionaire CEO and a broke single father with Michael's daughter's health hanging in the balance and professional boundaries they absolutely shouldn't cross. And yet, he fell asleep at his kitchen table, surrounded by consent forms and possibility, dreaming of a future where Lily was healthy and Elizabeth was smiling and maybe, just maybe, they figured out how to build something real from the wreckage of that rainy night. The next morning, Lily found him still at the table, head pillowed on his arms, and gently shook him awake. Daddy? Did you read everything? Michael blinked bleary eyes at her. Yeah, baby, I read it all. And I think, if you're sure this is what you want, we should do it. Lily's face split into a grin. Really? Really, but Lily, listen to me. He pulled her onto his lap, needing her to understand. This is going to be hard, harder than your transplant maybe. You'll have to be very brave. I can be brave. I'm always brave. I know you are. The bravest person I know. He hugged her tight. When did you get so grown up? I've always been grown up. You just didn't notice. She was right, he realized. Somewhere between medications and hospital visits and the constant low-grade terror of parenting a sick child, Lily had become her own person, strong and smart and ready to fight for her future, just like her father, just like the woman who was offering them hope. Michael called Elizabeth from his car after dropping Lily at school. We're in. Lily said yes. I said yes. Let's do this. The sound Elizabeth made, half laugh, half-sob, told him everything he needed to know about how much this meant to her. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for trusting me with her. Thank you for caring." "Michael," she hesitated. "After we get through enrollment and the first few infusions, when things are stable, I'd like to take you both to dinner, somewhere nice, to celebrate." "Elizabeth Armstrong, are you asking me on a date?" "I'm asking to take my patient and her father to dinner, as a thank you." "That's not what I asked." A long pause, then, "Yes, I suppose I am. If you'd want—" "Yes," Michael said, grinning at his steering wheel like an idiot. "We'd want that very much." "Oh, good. That's good." She sounded flustered. Elizabeth Armstrong, who commanded boardrooms and stared down corporate raiders, was flustered over asking him to dinner. The realization made Michael's heart do something complicated and wonderful. The consent process took 3 weeks. Lawyers reviewed everything, ethics committees scrutinized protocols, and Michael signed so many forms his hand cramped. Through it all, Elizabeth was present, not just as CEO, but as someone invested in every detail of Lily's care. She attended team meetings, reviewed lab results personally, and sent Michael articles about tolerance induction at 2 in the morning with notes like, "This explains the mechanism better than our consent form does." Lily started calling her Ms. Elizabeth the Kidney Lady, which made Elizabeth laugh until tears streamed down her face. The first infusion was scheduled for mid-November, just as Boston's weather turned properly cold. Michael took 2 days off work, calling in every favor he'd accumulated because nothing would keep him from Lily's side. They arrived at the research unit at 7 in the morning, Lily clutching her kidney plushie and wearing her bravest face. Elizabeth met them at the door, and Michael noticed immediately that she looked like she hadn't slept. Dark circles under her eyes, coffee cup gripped too tight. That particular tension that came from caring too much. "Ready?" she asked Lily. "Ready? Are you ready?" Elizabeth laughed shakily. "I've been preparing for this for 23 years, so yes. I think I'm ready." The infusion room was designed to feel less clinical. Soft colors, comfortable chairs, a TV playing cartoons. Lily settled into the oversized recliner while Dr. Okonkwo explained everything one more time. "These T cells are special. We took some of your blood last week, remember? And we taught certain cells how to be peacekeepers instead of warriors. Now we're putting them back in you. It'll take about 3 hours, and you might feel a little warm or tired, but it shouldn't hurt." "Will I be able to tell they're working?" Lily asked. "Not right away. It takes time for them to find the cells that are attacking your kidney and teach them new rules. But over the next few months, we'll be checking your blood all the time to see how they're doing." Michael held Lily's hand as they started the IV, watched the clear bag of engineered cells drip slowly into his daughter's bloodstream, and prayed to a God he wasn't sure he believed in anymore. "Let this work. Please let this work." Elizabeth stood on Lily's other side, and at some point her hand found Michael's free one, gripping tight. They stayed like that for 3 hours, a strange little family bound by hope and science and the memory of loss. While the cells did their invisible work, Lily tolerated it beautifully. She watched movies, ate popsicles, asked Dr. Okonkwo approximately 700 questions about cellular biology. Only once did she squeeze Michael's hand extra tight, whispering, "Daddy, I'm scared." "I know, baby, but you're doing so great. I'm so proud of you." "Is Ms. Elizabeth scared too?" They both looked at Elizabeth, who'd gone very still. "Yes," she admitted. "I'm terrified. But that's okay. Being scared means we care." "I care a lot," Lily said seriously. "Me too." When the infusion finished, they kept Lily for observation another 2 hours. She dozed in the recliner, Michael and Elizabeth maintaining their silent vigil, hands still clasped between the chairs. "Thank you," Elizabeth whispered, "for letting me be here. Thank you for making this possible. If it works, when it works," Michael corrected. "When it works," Elizabeth agreed, a small smile touching her lips. "When it works, we're going to help so many kids. Lily will be the first, the pioneer." She'd like that, being a pioneer. They took Lily home that evening, Michael carrying his sleeping daughter from the car to her bed. She'd been given steroids as part of the protocol, which made her wired and then exhausted. He tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and found Elizabeth standing uncertainly in his living room, looking out of place among the worn furniture and medical equipment. "This is where you live," she said, not quite a question. "Yeah, it's not much, but it's full of love, I can tell." She turned to face him. "Michael, I know we said dinner after things were stable, but I was wondering, would you want to get coffee tomorrow? Just the two of us? I'd like to talk about things that aren't medicine or trials or—" "Yes," he said, cutting off her nervous rambling. "I'd like that." "Oh, good. I'll text you a time and place." "Elizabeth." He crossed the room, standing close enough to see the amber flecks in her green eyes. "You don't have to be nervous. It's just me." "That's why I'm nervous. Because it's you, and this matters, and I don't know how to do this. The personal thing. I've spent 20 years building walls, and suddenly you're here with your daughter and your kindness, and the walls aren't working anymore." Michael reached up, tucking a strand of hair that had escaped her bun behind her ear. "Maybe the walls never really worked. Maybe they just kept you lonely." "They did," she admitted. "God, they really did." They stood like that in his shabby living room while Lily slept down the hall and Boston hummed outside the windows. Michael wanted to kiss her, wanted it with an intensity that surprised him, but this felt too fragile, too new. So instead he just held her gaze and said, "Tomorrow, coffee. We'll figure out the rest as we go." "The rest?" Elizabeth repeated. "I like the sound of that." She left reluctantly, and Michael watched from his window as her Mercedes pulled away, taillights disappearing into Boston traffic. His phone buzzed immediately. "I'm already missing you. Is that pathetic?" He smiled at the text. "Not pathetic, just honest. I'm missing you too." "How's Lily?" "Sleeping hard. The steroids wiped her out." "Good. She needs rest. You need rest too." Says the woman who looks like she hasn't slept in days. "I was worried about today. Couldn't turn my brain off. And now? Now I'm hopeful. Cautiously. Carefully hopeful." Michael climbed into bed, phone still in hand, texting Elizabeth until exhaustion finally claimed them both. It was the beginning of something. He could feel it taking shape between them, built on blood and rain and a shared understanding of what it meant to love someone enough to fight for them. The next morning they met at a coffee shop in Cambridge, far enough from the hospital that they wouldn't run into colleagues. Elizabeth arrived first, already sitting at a corner table when Michael walked in. She'd traded her power suit for jeans and a sweater, her hair down around her shoulders, and she looked younger, less guarded. "Hi," she said, sounding almost shy. "Hi." Michael slid into the seat across from her. "This is weird, right? Good weird, but weird. So weird. I kept trying to prepare conversation topics, then realized that was ridiculous because we talk all the time." She pushed a coffee toward him. "Black, 2 sugars, I remembered." "You remembered my coffee order." "I remember everything about you." She said it simply, like it was obvious. "The way you check your phone every 5 minutes when you're worried about Lily. The way you get this little crease between your eyebrows when you're reading medical articles. The way you—" She stopped, cheeks coloring. "Sorry, that's probably creepy." "It's not creepy. It's sweet." Michael reached across the table, taking her hand. "Elizabeth, I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen, okay?" She nodded, suddenly nervous. "I'm not rich. I work doubles to make rent. I have medical debt that'll probably follow me to my grave. I shop at thrift stores and clip coupons, and sometimes dinner is cereal because I'm too tired to cook." He squeezed her hand. "I can't take you to fancy restaurants or buy you expensive gifts or fit into your world. I'm barely holding mine together most days. Michael, but I'm falling for you, hard, and I need to know if that's going to be a problem. If the reality of my life is too much, or if you were expecting something different, I need to know now. Before this goes further, before Lily gets more attached, before I—" His voice cracked slightly. "Before I fall any harder." Elizabeth stared at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. Then she laughed, a wild, slightly unhinged sound that made the other customers look over. "You think I care about money? Michael, I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. and I've never been more miserable. I live in a townhouse that's too big, too empty, too quiet. I work 80-hour weeks because I don't have anything else. I can't remember the last time I laughed before I met you." She gripped his hand with both of hers. "You think you're falling for me? I fell for you the moment you called me easy in that car. When you held my hand and told me you had me, and I believed you. Elizabeth, I don't want expensive gifts or fancy restaurants. I want coffee at 6 in the morning while we text about Lily's labs. I want someone who understands why I built this company. I want—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I want to not be so goddamn lonely anymore." Michael stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her. Right there in the crowded coffee shop, with their drinks getting cold on the table, he kissed Elizabeth Armstrong like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. She made a small sound of surprise, then melted against him, hands fisting in his jacket. "I've got plenty of baggage myself. We'll make it work." And somehow, standing in that coffee shop with Elizabeth in his arms and hope blooming in his chest, Michael believed they would. They kept it quiet at first. Not because they were ashamed, but because the situation was complicated enough without adding public scrutiny to the mix. Elizabeth was still Lily's physician, technically speaking, even if Dr. Okonkwo managed the day-to-day care. Michael was still a parent navigating experimental treatment for his daughter. The ethics were murky at best, but stealing moments together became the thread that held them both together during the grueling weeks that followed. Coffee before Michael's shifts, late dinners after Lily was asleep, Elizabeth arriving at his apartment with takeout from restaurants Michael couldn't pronounce, texts at all hours, sometimes about Lily's labs, sometimes just because they needed to hear from each other. 3 weeks after the first infusion, Lily's labs came back. Michael was at work when his phone rang, Elizabeth's name flashing, and his heart immediately jumped into his throat. "Tell me," he said, not bothering with hello. Her creatinine dropped. Elizabeth's voice shook with barely contained emotion. 0.2 milligrams. That doesn't sound like much, but Michael, it's moving in the right direction. And her T-cell populations are showing exactly the shift we hoped for. The regulatory cells are expanding. Michael leaned against the nurse's station wall, suddenly unable to stand. "It's working. It's early. We need more time, more data. But yes, I think it's working." He wanted to shout, to cry, to do something with the surge of relief and hope flooding his system. Instead, he just closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you. God, Elizabeth, thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have months to go." But something had shifted. The impossible was becoming possible. That night, Elizabeth came to the apartment with a small cake from Lily's favorite bakery. They told her together, watching her face light up with understanding that her body was finally, maybe, learning to accept the gift it had been given. "Does this mean I can go to Emma's birthday party next month?" Lily asked immediately. "The one at the trampoline place?" Michael and Elizabeth exchanged glances. "Let's see how the next few weeks go," Michael said carefully. "But maybe?" "Maybe, baby." Lily launched herself at Elizabeth, hugging her with the fierce gratitude of a child who understood she was being given a second chance. "You're the best kidney lady ever." Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. She hugged Lily back, and over his daughter's head her gaze found Michael's. In that look, gratitude, wonder, terror, that this fragile hope might shatter, he saw everything he felt reflected back. After Lily went to bed, they sat on Michael's lumpy couch, Elizabeth tucked against his side, her head on his shoulder. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly. "Every time I let myself believe this is working, I remember Catherine. How we thought she was getting better, and then—" "This isn't Catherine," Michael said firmly. "The medicine is different. The timing is different. Lily is different. But what if it's not enough? What if I've given you false hope?" Michael turned to face her, taking her face in his hands. "Elizabeth, listen to me. Even if this doesn't work, and I believe it will, but even if it doesn't, you've given us something no one else could. You've given us a chance. You've shown Lily that people are fighting for her, researching for her, caring about her future. That matters. Whatever happens, that will always matter. How are you so calm about this?" "I'm not calm. I'm terrified every second of every day. But I've learned that fear doesn't stop the future from coming. All we can do is face it together." Elizabeth kissed him then, soft and desperate, like she was trying to absorb some of his strength. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the dark apartment, two people who'd lost too much trying to believe they might finally get to keep something. The following weeks brought a new rhythm to their lives. Lily's weekly monitoring appointments became family affairs. Michael taking her in, Elizabeth meeting them there, the three of them grabbing lunch afterward at whichever restaurant Lily chose. They were building something, the three of them, though none of them quite dared to name it yet. But Boston's medical community was small, and people noticed. Marcus cornered Michael in the locker room one afternoon, arms crossed, wearing his concerned friend face. "So, you and Armstrong." Michael's hand stilled on his locker. "What about us?" "Come on, man. You think I haven't noticed? The way you check your phone and smile, how you've been humming while you work. I haven't seen you this happy since before Sarah left." "It's complicated." "It's always complicated with you." Marcus softened. "But I'm happy for you. She seems good for you, and Lily adores her." "She does." Michael couldn't help smiling. "It's terrifying, actually, how attached Lily's gotten. If things don't work out, why wouldn't they work out? Because Elizabeth is a billionaire CEO and I'm a broke nurse? Because she's Lily's doctor? Because there are about 17 different ways this could go wrong?" Marcus shook his head. "Or it could go right. You ever think about that? Maybe the universe is finally cutting you a break." Michael wanted to believe that, but he'd learned the hard way that the universe didn't hand out happy endings, especially not to people like him. His phone buzzed. "Elizabeth. Can you come to my office after your shift? Something's come up. Don't worry, nothing bad with Lily." Michael's stomach still dropped despite the reassurance. "I'll be there." He found Elizabeth in her corner office an hour later, staring at documents spread across her desk. She looked tired, her usually perfect composure slightly frayed at the edges. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "Chen, the businessman who tried to buy Armstrong Biomedical? He's back, with a new offer." She pushed a document toward him. $4 billion this time. "And he's threatening to go hostile if I don't accept." Michael scanned the papers, not understanding half the financial jargon, but getting the gist. "Can he do that?" "Technically, yes. I own 51% of the company, but he could buy up shares from the other investors, make things very uncomfortable, tie us up in legal battles that would drain resources we need for research." Elizabeth rubbed her temples. "He's specifically targeting the tolerance protocol, wants to fast-track it, license it to pharmaceutical companies for maximum profit." "What happens to the patients? To Lily?" "Nothing. In theory, the trial would continue, but the protocol would become proprietary, expensive. Kids like Lily who can't afford cutting-edge treatment would be locked out." She met his eyes. "Everything I built this company to prevent." "So tell him no." "I did. But Michael, he's threatening to take this to the board, to the investors. Some of them are already nervous about the trial costs. If Chen convinces them I'm being emotional rather than rational, if he paints me as someone letting personal grief cloud business judgment, then they might force you out." Michael felt cold. "Of your own company, the one you built for Catherine?" "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. Michael crossed to her, pulling her up from her chair and into his arms. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, shaking. "I can't lose this," she said against his chest. "I can't let him turn Catherine's legacy into a profit machine. But I don't know how to fight this. Business was always easier when I didn't care about anything but winning. Now I have you and Lily, and I'm scared of making the wrong choice. What do you want to do?" "I want to tell Chen to go to hell. I want to keep Armstrong Biomedical exactly as it is, mission-driven, patient-focused, everything Catherine would have wanted." "Then do that." "It's not that simple. If he goes hostile, if we get tied up in battles, Michael, we might lose funding for the trial. We might have to pause Lily's treatment until things stabilize." And there it was. The impossible choice Elizabeth was facing. Her company's mission versus the immediate needs of the patient she'd come to love like a daughter. Michael pulled back to look at her. "Elizabeth, I need you to hear me very carefully. If you need to pause Lily's treatment to save the company, to save the protocol for all the other kids who will need it, we'll understand. Lily's stable right now. She can go back to standard treatment for a few months if necessary. Don't let Chen use her as leverage. But her labs will be fine. The improvement we've seen gives us breathing room. We can wait. He cupped her face. Fight for the company, Elizabeth. Fight for what Catherine would have wanted. We'll be here when the dust settles. Tears spilled down her cheeks. How are you so good? How do you always know exactly what to say? Because I love you. The words came out before he could stop them, but he didn't want to stop them. They were true. Somewhere between the rain and the rescue and the weeks of building this fragile, beautiful thing, he'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Elizabeth Armstrong. I love you, and I trust you to do the right thing. Elizabeth stared at him, eyes wide. You love me. Yeah, I do. Michael, She swallowed hard. I'm not good at this. The emotion thing. I've spent so long building walls, being professional, keeping everyone at arm's length. But with you, I can't seem to maintain any distance at all. You and Lily have destroyed every defense I ever built, and it's terrifying, and She took a shaky breath. I love you too. So much it scares me. Michael kissed her, tasting salt and hope, and the particular flavor of two broken people choosing to trust again. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. So we're in this together? All of it? All of it, she agreed, even the parts that terrify us. The next morning, Elizabeth called an emergency board meeting. Michael didn't attend, it wasn't his world, but she texted him updates throughout the day. Presenting the case for maintaining our mission, Chen's lawyer is here. This is brutal. Board wants financials proving we can stay independent. I think I have them. They're voting. I'll let you know. Michael was examining a patient when his phone rang hours later. He excused himself, heart pounding. Elizabeth? We won. Her voice was thick with emotion. 7-3. The board voted to reject Chen's offer and implement defensive measures against hostile takeover. Armstrong Biomedical stays independent. That's incredible. Michael, they did it because of Lily. I showed them her results, explained what the protocol means for pediatric transplant patients, told them about Catherine, about why this matters. One of the board members started crying, said his granddaughter has kidney disease. She laughed, slightly hysterical. We won because I stopped pretending this was just business and made it personal. Sometimes personal is exactly what business needs. I'm learning that, slowly. A pause. Can I take you and Lily to dinner tonight, somewhere nice? I need to celebrate with my family. My family? The words hit Michael square in the chest. We'd love that. They went to a restaurant in the North End that Michael had only ever walked past, the kind of place where prices weren't listed on menus and waiters wore better suits than most lawyers. Lily wore her favorite dress, the one with kidneys printed on it that Elizabeth had special ordered for her birthday. Elizabeth wore slacks and a soft blouse, her hair down, looking more relaxed than Michael had seen her in weeks. They toasted with sparkling cider, Lily giggling at the bubbles, and for a few hours Michael let himself believe in the impossible, that they could make this work, that love might actually be enough. Ms. Elizabeth? Lily asked over dessert. Can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Are you my dad's girlfriend? The restaurant seemed to go quiet. Michael froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Elizabeth's eyes went wide. Lily, that's complicated, Michael stammered. It doesn't seem complicated. You hold hands. You kiss sometimes when you think I'm not looking. You text all the time with the smiley faces. Lily looked between them with 8-year-old logic. That's what girlfriends and boyfriends do. Elizabeth recovered first. Would it bother you if I was? Lily considered this seriously. No, I like you. You're smart and nice, and you're helping my kidney work better. And you make Daddy smile again. He stopped smiling after Mom left, but now he smiles all the time. Michael's throat closed. He'd thought he'd hidden it better. The depression that had settled over him after Sarah abandoned them, the grinding exhaustion of single parenthood, the loneliness. But Lily had noticed. Of course she had. Then yes, Elizabeth said, reaching across the table to take both Lily's hand and Michael's. I'm your dad's girlfriend, if that's okay with everyone. It's okay with me, Lily beamed. Does this mean you'll come to my school's science fair? I'm doing a project about kidneys and I need someone who actually knows about them. I would be honored to help with your science fair project. Michael watched them planning together, his daughter and the woman he loved, and felt something settle in his chest. This was what family looked like. Not perfect, not simple, but real. Walking to the car later, Lily between them holding both their hands, Michael caught Elizabeth's eye over their daughter's head. Their daughter. When had he started thinking of Lily as theirs? Thank you, Elizabeth mouthed. For what? For trusting her with Lily? For loving her despite the complications? For giving her a chance at the family she'd thought she'd never have? Thank you, he mouthed back, and meant it for all the same reasons. But the happiness couldn't last. It never did. 2 weeks later, Michael got the call every transplant parent dreaded. Lily had spiked a fever at school, 103.2 and climbing. She was confused, nauseous, complaining of pain in her side where the transplanted kidney sat. I'm calling an ambulance, the school nurse said. You need to meet us at Boston Memorial. Michael's world tilted. He was already running for his car, calling Elizabeth with shaking hands. Lily's sick, really sick. They're taking her to the ER. I'm leaving now. 20 minutes. Elizabeth's voice was pure steel. Michael, breathe. We've got this. But the fear in her voice belied the confidence of her words. Michael made it to the hospital in record time, probably breaking 6 traffic laws, to find Lily already in a trauma bay. Dr. Okonkwo was there, Dr. Chen, a team of residents, everyone moving with organized urgency. Dad. Dr. Okonkwo pulled him aside. She's in acute rejection. Her kidney function has deteriorated significantly in the last 6 hours. We're starting high-dose steroids and we've called for plasma exchange, but what? Michael's voice came out strangled. But I won't lie to you, this is bad. If we can't reverse it quickly, she may need emergency dialysis, possibly another transplant. The world spun. 3 years. They'd had 3 good years with that kidney, and now... Michael. Elizabeth appeared at his side, slightly out of breath, eyes wild. I'm here. What do we know, doctor? Okonkwo repeated the information, her voice gentle but clinical. Elizabeth listened, face going progressively paler, until she swayed slightly. Michael caught her arm. No, Elizabeth whispered. No, this can't be happening. The protocol was working. Her labs were improving. Sometimes the body reacts unpredictably, Dr. Okonkwo said. We knew this was a risk. But I thought I was so careful. The dosing, the monitoring, everything was perfect. Elizabeth's voice rose, edging toward panic. This is my fault. I pushed too hard, too fast, and now... Elizabeth, Michael gripped her shoulders. This is not your fault. Rejection happens. It's what kidneys do. But I promised I'd keep her safe. I promised you. And you did everything humanly possible. Now we deal with what's in front of us. They let him go back to Lily once she was stabilized enough. She lay in the hospital bed looking impossibly small, IV lines running into both arms, oxygen cannula in her nose. But her eyes were open, tracking him as he entered. Daddy. Her voice was thin. My kidney hurts. I know, baby. The doctors are working on fixing it. Is it dying, like Miss Elizabeth's sister's kidney died? Michael's heart shattered. We're not going to let that happen. But what if you can't stop it? What if the cells we put in didn't work? He climbed onto the bed beside her, careful of the wires and tubes, and pulled her against his chest. Then we fight harder. We try new things. We don't give up. We never give up. I'm tired of fighting, Daddy. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. I just want to be normal. I know, sweetheart. I know. Elizabeth appeared in the doorway, and Lily immediately reached for her. Ms. Elizabeth, I'm sorry. I tried to make the cells work. I really tried. Oh, honey. Elizabeth crossed to them, sitting on the other side of the bed. This isn't your fault. Not even a little bit. You did everything perfectly. But I'm rejecting, Dr. Okonkwo said. Yes, but we're going to fix it. We have so many tools, so many options. We're not done fighting yet. Over the next 72 hours, Michael lived at the hospital. He took leave from work, slept in the chair beside Lily's bed, and watched helplessly as they pumped her full of steroids and performed plasma exchange to filter out the antibodies attacking her kidney. Elizabeth was there almost as much, coordinating with the medical team, reviewing options, her professional mask firmly in place even as her eyes showed the terror underneath. On the third night, after Lily finally fell into exhausted sleep, they stood together in the hospital corridor. Elizabeth looked destroyed, hair escaping its bun, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking slightly. "This is Catherine all over again," she whispered. "I'm watching it happen again, and I can't stop it." Elizabeth, "No, let me finish." She turned to face him fully. "I thought I could save her, save Lily. I thought my research, my money, my determination could beat this. But I can't. I'm just as powerless now as I was at 19 watching Catherine die." "You're not powerless. You've given Lily chances she wouldn't have had otherwise. Chances that are failing." Elizabeth's voice broke. "Michael, I think maybe I should step back. Let someone else manage her care, someone who can be objective, who isn't emotionally compromised." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe loving you both was a mistake. Maybe I've let my feelings cloud my judgment. Maybe if someone else had been making decisions—" "Stop." Michael's voice came out harder than he intended. "Stop doing this. Stop sabotaging yourself because you're scared. I'm not." "You are. You're looking for a reason to run before this destroys you. But Elizabeth—" He grabbed her hands, forcing her to look at him. "It's too late. We're already destroyed if we lose her. Running now doesn't protect you from that pain. It just means facing it alone. I don't know how to do this, how to care this much and still function when everything's falling apart. You do it 1 minute at a time, one decision at a time. You stay and you fight and you let people help you." He pulled her into his arms. "You let me help you." She broke then, really broke, sobbing into his shoulder with the force of 23 years of suppressed grief. Michael held her in that hospital corridor and let her cry, understanding that she was mourning Catherine and Lily and every patient she'd ever lost or failed to save. When she finally quieted, exhausted against him, he said softly, "I need you to stay. Lily needs you, not as her doctor, as her Elizabeth, the woman who explained T-cells with crayons and bought her a kidney plushie. Can you do that?" "I don't know if I can watch her." Elizabeth couldn't finish the sentence. "Then we'll watch together. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what family does." "Family?" Elizabeth repeated, like she was testing the word. "Is that what we are?" "That's what we've been for a while now. You just needed to catch up." A sound from Lily's room made them both turn. Through the window, they could see her sitting up in bed, looking around with more alertness than she'd shown in days. They rushed in together. "Lily, how do you feel?" "Thirsty and hungry." She looked between them, taking in their tear-stained faces. "Were you guys crying?" "Maybe a little," Michael admitted. "Because of me?" "Because we love you very much and don't like seeing you sick." Lily seemed to consider this. Then, "Ms. Elizabeth, you look really tired. You should go home and sleep." "I don't want to leave you." "I'll still be here tomorrow. Daddy says I have to stay at least a week." Lily reached out, patting Elizabeth's hand with the wisdom of someone far too young to be this familiar with hospitals. "You can't help me if you're too tired to think straight. That's what Daddy always says." Elizabeth looked at Michael, who shrugged. "She's not wrong." "Fine, but I'm coming back first thing in the morning, and you—" Elizabeth pointed at Michael. "You need to sleep too. Real sleep, not chair sleep." "I'm not leaving her." "I know, but promise me you'll at least eat something? Marcus brought food to the nurse's station for you." Of course he had. Marcus, who'd been texting constantly, offering to bring anything Michael needed, who'd covered all his shifts without complaint. Family came in different forms. Elizabeth left reluctantly, making both of them promise to call if anything changed. Alone with Lily, Michael settled back into his vigil. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was quiet in the dim room. "Am I going to die?" The question hit him like a bullet. "No, baby, you're not going to die." "How do you know?" "Because the steroids are working. Your fever's down, your kidney function is starting to improve. Dr. Okonkwo said if the trend continues, you'll be out of danger soon." "But what if it doesn't continue? What if my kidney dies and I need another one?" Michael climbed back onto the bed, pulling her close. Then we get you another one. We go back on the transplant list. We do dialysis while we wait, and we keep fighting. But Lily, he tilted her face up to look at him. I need you to hear me. You're not going to die. Not on my watch. Not on Elizabeth's watch. We have too much left to do together. Like what? Like your science fair and Emma's birthday party, and teaching Elizabeth how to make proper hot chocolate instead of that fancy stuff she drinks? He kissed her forehead. Like watching you grow up and become the brilliant scientist I know you're going to be. You really think I could be a scientist? Baby, you're already a scientist. You're a pioneer, remember? The first kid in the tolerance protocol. They're going to write about you in medical journals someday. That got a small smile. Will they use my full name, Lily Marie Hayes? Every time. And they'll say you were brave and smart and never gave up, even when things were scary. I'm scared now, Daddy. I know, me too, but we're scared together and that makes it better. Lily snuggled against him, finally relaxing. I'm glad Ms. Elizabeth is your girlfriend, even if she cries in hallways. Me too, baby. Me too. By morning, Lily's kidney function had stabilized, not improved, but stopped declining, which Dr. Okonkwo said was a victory given the severity of the rejection. They'd continue the steroids, do another round of plasma exchange, and monitor constantly. She's not out of the woods, Dr. Okonkwo warned, but she's fighting back. That kidney doesn't want to quit any more than she does. Elizabeth arrived at 6 a.m. with coffee for Michael and a stuffed kidney for Lily, this one wearing a tiny boxing glove. I saw it in the hospital gift shop, she said, slightly embarrassed. Seemed appropriate. Lily clutched it to her chest. Fighting kidney. I love it. Over the next week, they established a routine. Michael spent nights at the hospital while Elizabeth came during the day, spelling him so he could shower and eat and pretend to sleep. They tag-teamed Lily's care, entertained her, advocated for her, and slowly, painfully slowly, watched her improve. The rejection didn't reverse completely. Lily lost some kidney function permanently, but she stabilized at a new baseline, and Dr. Okonkwo adjusted her medications to account for the change. She'll need more monitoring, the doctor explained, and we're pulling her from the tolerance protocol for now. It's too risky to continue while her kidney is this fragile. Michael felt Elizabeth tense beside him, saw the guilt flash across her face, but she just nodded professionally. I understand. What's the long-term prognosis? Hard to say. This kidney might last another year, might last 5. We'll watch her closely, hope for the best, prepare for the eventual need for another transplant. Another transplant, another surgery, another recovery, another cycle of hope and fear. Michael wanted to scream at the unfairness of it. Lily was 8 years old. She should be worrying about homework and friends, not kidney function and antibody levels. But that night, after the doctors left and visiting hours ended, after Michael had sent Elizabeth home with promises to actually rest, Lily looked at him with clear eyes and said, It's okay, Daddy. What is? That my kidney isn't perfect. That I might need another one someday. She hugged her boxing glove, kidney. I've been thinking about what Ms. Elizabeth said, about how she does this research for her sister, and I thought, maybe someday I can help other kids with sick kidneys, since I know what it's like. Michael's vision blurred with tears. You're 8. You shouldn't have to think about helping other kids. You should just get to be a kid. But I'm not just a kid, I'm a kidney kid. That's different. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was stating the color of the sky. And maybe being different means I get to help people, like you help people at your job, like Miss Elizabeth helps people with her company. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just finally noticed. He laughed through his tears, hugging her carefully. I love you so much, baby girl. I love you too. And Daddy, I think you should marry Ms. Elizabeth. Michael nearly choked. What? You should marry her. She loves us, we love her, and she makes really good pancakes. Plus she's super rich, which means better birthday presents. Lily, I'm just saying, think about it. She yawned. Now I'm tired. All this kidney fighting is exhausting. She fell asleep within minutes, leaving Michael to sit with her bombshell. Marriage. He hadn't even let himself think that far ahead. They'd only officially been together a few months. There were ethical complications, professional boundaries, a million reasons to take things slow, but sitting in that hospital room, watching his daughter sleep with a fighting kidney clutched in her arms, Michael realized something. He'd already made his choice. Somewhere between the rain and the rescue and the weeks of building this impossible thing with Elizabeth, he'd committed, completely. The kind of commitment that didn't need a ring or a ceremony to be real. His phone buzzed. Elizabeth, because of course. Can't sleep, thinking about you both. How is she? Stable, sleeping, dreaming about kidneys, probably. And you? Awake, thinking. About? Michael stared at the text, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then he typed the truth. About the future, about family, about how I want to spend the rest of my life with you. A long pause. Then 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came through. Michael Hayes, are you proposing to me via text message from a hospital room? Maybe. Is that terrible? It's perfectly terrible. Also perfectly us. Another pause. Ask me again when Lily's home and healthy. Ask me properly. And Michael? Yeah? The answer is going to be yes. He sat in the dark hospital room, phone clutched in his hand, and let himself believe in impossible things, in kidneys that fought back and love that lasted, and families built from wreckage and hope. Outside, Boston slept beneath a clear November sky. Somewhere in a townhouse across town, Elizabeth Armstrong lay awake, planning a future she'd never dared to imagine. And in the hospital bed, Lily Hayes dreamed of T-cells and science fairs, and a life where being different meant being strong. The fight wasn't over. It would never really be over, not with chronic illness, not with the constant threat of rejection and failure. But they'd face it together now, nurse, CEO, and the brave girl who'd taught them both what it meant to hope against all odds. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. Lily came home on a cold December morning when Boston was preparing for its first real snow of the season. Michael pushed her wheelchair through the hospital's automatic doors, while Elizabeth carried the absurd collection of stuffed kidneys Lily had accumulated during her stay. The medical team had lined up to say goodbye, nurses hugging Lily and extracting promises that she'd visit soon, Dr. Okonkwo reminding them about the follow-up schedule with the kind of firmness that left no room for argument. "You're sure you don't want me to arrange for home health?" Elizabeth asked for the 3rd time as they loaded into her car. She'd insisted on driving them home, and Michael hadn't had the energy to argue. His Honda was still in the hospital parking lot where he'd abandoned it 10 days ago. "We'll be fine," Michael said, though his stomach churned with anxiety. The hospital felt safe, controlled. Home meant navigating recovery alone, watching for signs of trouble, trusting himself to know when Lily needed help, versus when she was just being 8 years old. "I'm not made of glass, you know," Lily piped up from the back seat. "I can walk," Dr. Okonkwo said. "The wheelchair is hospital policy," Elizabeth said, catching Michael's eye in the rearview mirror. "But you're right. You're much stronger than glass." "I'm made of steel. And kidneys." Lily hugged her fighting kidney plushie. "Mostly steel, though." When they pulled up to Michael's apartment building, he felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. Elizabeth had been here before, but always in the evening, always when the harsh morning light didn't illuminate quite how shabby everything was. The peeling paint on the building's facade, the broken intercom, the stairs they'd have to navigate because the elevator had been broken for 6 months, and the landlord kept promising to fix it. Elizabeth seemed to read his thoughts. "Michael, stop." "Stop what?" "Apologizing in your head." She grabbed their bags from the trunk. "Your home is perfect because it's full of love. Everything else is just aesthetics." Easy for you to say when you live in a Beacon Hill townhouse. That townhouse is a mausoleum, cold and empty and echoing with everything I don't have. She hefted Lily's hospital bag. "This building has kids' bikes in the hallway and cooking smells and sounds of life. I'll take this over marble floors any day." They made it up the 3 flights of stairs slowly, Lily insisting on walking but needing frequent breaks. Michael kept one hand hovering near her back, ready to catch her if she stumbled, while Elizabeth carried everything else. Mrs. Chen from down the hall poked her head out as they passed, asking after Lily's health, and pressing a container of soup into Michael's hands with stern instructions about proper nutrition. "See?" Elizabeth whispered as they finally reached his door. "Community. You can't buy that." Inside, the apartment felt smaller with Elizabeth in it. She moved around the space with careful efficiency, helping Lily settle on the couch, arranging medications on the kitchen counter in precise rows, checking expiration dates, and creating a schedule that made Michael's head spin. "You don't have to do all this," he said, watching her organize with CEO precision. "I know. I want to." She looked up from the medication chart she was creating. "Unless you want me to leave, I don't want to overstep." "Elizabeth, you just spent 10 days living at that hospital with us. I think we're past worrying about overstepping." "Right. But this is different. This is your home, your routine. I don't want to disrupt." "Daddy, can Ms. Elizabeth stay for lunch?" Lily called from the couch. "I'm hungry, and Mrs. Chen's soup smells really good." Michael looked at Elizabeth, saw the uncertainty in her eyes, the fear that she was intruding on something sacred. He crossed to her, took the medication bottles from her hands, and pulled her close. "Stay," he said quietly. "Stay for lunch, stay for dinner, stay for as long as you want. I have a board meeting at 3. Then stay until 2:45. We'll take whatever time we can get." She relaxed against him just for a moment before straightening with determination. "Okay, but I'm cooking. You look exhausted." "I don't have much in the fridge." "Then I'll order groceries." "Michael, please, let me help. I'm terrible at sitting still when I'm worried, and I need something to do with my hands or I'll spiral." He recognized the anxiety in her voice, the same fear that had plagued him since Lily's diagnosis. The helplessness of loving someone whose body could betray them at any moment, whose life hung in a balance no amount of money or determination could fully control. "Fine, but nothing too fancy. Lily's on a bland diet for another week." Elizabeth pulled out her phone, already scrolling through a grocery delivery app. "Bland I can do. My cooking skills are mediocre at best, but I'm excellent at following recipes." "You can't cook?" Lily sounded scandalized. "I can cook exactly 3 things: scrambled eggs, grilled cheese, and something my sister used to call disaster pasta because it was whatever we could find in the pantry thrown together." Elizabeth smiled, but it was edged with sadness. Catherine was the real cook. She made these elaborate meals and pretended she was running a restaurant. I was her terrible sous chef who always chopped things wrong. "What happened to her recipes?" Lily asked, with the directness of a child who didn't understand that some questions hurt. "I kept them in a box in my closet. I haven't been able to look at them since she died." Elizabeth's voice went quiet. "Maybe that's silly. Keeping recipes I'll never use." "It's not silly," Michael said firmly. "It's love. You keep them because they're a piece of her. A piece I'm too afraid to touch. Maybe someday you won't be." He squeezed her hand. "And when that day comes, we'll make disaster pasta together and burn something and laugh about it." Elizabeth blinked rapidly, fighting tears. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "Years of practice dealing with scared patients and loving someone who's scared too." The grocery delivery arrived within an hour, Elizabeth having paid extra for rush service. Michael watched her unpack ingredients with the focused intensity she probably brought to board meetings, organizing everything with military precision. "You know you don't have to arrange the spices alphabetically, right?" he said, amused despite his exhaustion. "If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right." She frowned at a bottle of oregano. "Does this go with Italian or Greek?" "Both, I think." Michael rubbed his face. "Elizabeth, you're spiraling. Come sit down." "I can't sit down. If I sit down, I'll think about—" She stopped, shoulders tensing. "About what?" "About how close we came to losing her. About how it could happen again, any time, without warning. About how I promised to keep her safe, and I failed." Michael crossed to her, gently taking the oregano bottle and setting it aside. "You didn't fail. Lily's alive. She's home. She's stable. That's not failure. She lost kidney function. The protocol didn't work. All my research, all my certainty that I could fix this—" Elizabeth's voice broke. "I'm not used to failing, Michael. At business, I win. At research, I solve problems. But I can't solve this. I can't science my way out of organ rejection. I can't buy Lily a new kidney or negotiate with her immune system. And I hate it. I hate being this powerless. Welcome to my world, Michael said gently. This is what it's like loving someone with chronic illness. You don't get to control outcomes. You don't get guarantees. You just get to show up every day and love them and hope it's enough. Is it enough? Asked Lily. They both turned to look at the couch where Lily had fallen asleep, fighting kidney tucked under her chin, breathing steady and peaceful. She looked so small, so fragile, but also so completely defiantly alive. She thinks you hung the moon, Michael said quietly. She talks about you constantly. Ms. Elizabeth said this. Ms. Elizabeth explained that. You've given her something precious, not just medical treatment, but someone who sees her as more than her disease. Someone who's brilliant and successful and choosing to spend time with a sick kid because you genuinely enjoy her company. I do enjoy her company. She's remarkable. She is. And so are you. Michael turned Elizabeth to face him. You're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to not have all the answers. You're allowed to be human, Elizabeth. The woman, not the CEO. I don't know how to be just the woman. I've been the CEO for so long. Then I'll teach you. We'll figure it out together. Elizabeth leaned into him, letting herself be held, and for a few minutes they just stood in his tiny kitchen while Lily slept and Boston's first snow began to fall outside the windows. Eventually Elizabeth pulled back, wiping her eyes. Okay, enough spiral time. I'm going to make lunch, and it's going to be mediocre, and you're going to eat it and tell me it's wonderful because you're too kind to hurt my feelings. I'm not that kind. If you burn it, I'm ordering pizza. She laughed, the sound shaky but genuine. Deal. Lunch was indeed mediocre. Elizabeth's simple chicken soup had too much salt, and the vegetables were cut in wildly different sizes, but Michael ate every bite and declared it delicious. Lily woke up long enough to slurp down half a bowl before falling asleep again, exhausted from the simple act of being home. At 2:30, Elizabeth's phone started buzzing with board meeting reminders. She stared at it with obvious reluctance. You should go, Michael said. The company needs you. You need me more. We'll be here tonight, and tomorrow, and next week. He walked her to the door. Go run your empire. We'll hold down the fort. Call me if anything changes. Anything at all. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning or I'm in the middle of a presentation. Promise me. I promise. She kissed him goodbye, long and thorough, like she was memorizing the feel of him. Then she crouched beside the couch, gently brushing Lily's hair back. Sweet dreams, brave girl, she whispered. I'll see you tomorrow. After Elizabeth left, the apartment felt quieter but not empty. Her presence lingered in the organized medications, the groceries, the soup container in the fridge with reheat at 350, written on it in her precise handwriting. Michael settled into the chair beside Lily's couch and let himself breathe for what felt like the first time in days. His daughter was home. His girlfriend loved them both. They'd survived another crisis. For this moment, this brief window of peace, it was enough. The next 2 weeks fell into a new rhythm. Michael took family leave from work, something he'd never been able to afford before, but Elizabeth had quietly arranged through the hospital's donor fund. She didn't tell him she'd funded it herself, but Marcus let it slip one day when he stopped by with food. That's quite a woman you've got there, Marcus said, watching through the window as Elizabeth helped Lily with a science project in the parking lot below. Using her own money to create a fund so you could take time off. That's not a girlfriend move, that's a wife move. Michael's heart did something complicated. Don't. Don't what? Point out what everyone can see? You two are endgame, hermano. The only question is when you're going to make it official. She hasn't even met my mother yet. Your mother lives in Florida and you talk to her once a month. That's not a barrier, that's an excuse. Marcus leaned against the window frame. What are you really afraid of? Michael watched Elizabeth below, pointing up at the sky while Lily followed her finger, probably explaining cloud formations or atmospheric pressure or something equally scientific. I'm afraid of jinxing it. Every good thing in my life has fallen apart. Sarah leaving, Lily getting sick, my dad dying when I was 19. I'm afraid if I reach for this, if I let myself really believe we could have a future, something will go wrong. Michael, Something's always going to go wrong. That's life. The question is whether you want to face the wrong things alone or with someone who loves you. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, Michael rubbed his face. I'm terrified, Marcus, of losing her, of losing Lily, of building this beautiful thing and watching it collapse. Then hold on tighter, love harder, take the risk. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. Because that woman down there, she's already taken her risk. She's all in. Now you need to catch up. That night, after Lily was asleep and Elizabeth had gone home to prepare for morning meetings, Michael pulled out his laptop. He'd been avoiding it, but Marcus's words had lodged in his brain. If he was going to do this, if he was going to properly propose like he'd promised, he needed a ring. The problem was his bank account, hospital debt, rent, medications, basic living expenses. There wasn't anything left over for jewelry. Certainly nothing that would do justice to Elizabeth Armstrong, who probably wore earrings worth more than his car. His phone rang. Elizabeth, like she'd sensed him thinking about her. Can't sleep? He answered. Thinking about you, about Lily, about everything. Papers rustled. Michael, I need to tell you something. His stomach dropped. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but the board, they want to do something for Lily. Elizabeth, no. We've talked about this. I don't want charity. It's not charity. Let me finish. She took a breath. The tolerance protocol, even though it didn't work for Lily, her participation gave us crucial data. We learned things about pediatric rejection patterns that are informing the next version. The board wants to create a patient compensation program. Stipends for trial participants to cover expenses, time off work, medical costs not covered by insurance. Elizabeth, before you argue, this isn't just for Lily. This is policy. Every trial participant will receive it. But Michael, it's substantial, enough to clear your medical debt and set aside funds for future care. You'd never have to work doubles again just to afford Lily's medications. Michael sat down, laptop forgotten. How substantial? $50,000. More if she continues in future protocols. The number hit him like a physical blow. $50,000. He could pay off the hospital, the credit cards, the endless parade of bills that had been slowly crushing him for 3 years. He could afford better health insurance. He could take Lily on a vacation. A real vacation, not just day trips to free museums. He could breathe, so that's too much, he said automatically. It's what she's worth. What every child in these trials is worth. We're asking them to take risks for the advancement of science. The least we can do is ensure they don't go bankrupt in the process. Elizabeth paused. Michael, please don't let pride get in the way of accepting help. Lily deserves this, you deserve this. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Let me help you. Let the company help you. You've given us so much. Lily's data, your insights as a nurse and a parent, your willingness to trust us with your daughter's life. Let us give something back. Michael thought about the ring he couldn't afford, the future he wanted to build, the freedom that $50,000 would buy. Not luxury. He'd never wanted luxury, but security, stability, the ability to plan for tomorrow without constantly worrying about today. Yes, he said finally. And Elizabeth, thank you for seeing us, for caring, for everything. Thank you for letting me in, for being patient while I learned how to be human again. She laughed softly. I should let you sleep. But Michael, I love you. I need you to know that. Whatever happens, however this all plays out, I love you. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. Good. We should both be a little scared. It means this matters. After they hung up, Michael sat in the dark apartment and let himself imagine. A future where money wasn't a constant weight, where he could propose with a ring that represented what Elizabeth meant to him, not just what he could afford, where Lily could grow up with opportunities he'd never been able to give her. The compensation paperwork arrived 3 days later, official and legal and real. Michael signed it with shaking hands while Lily watched, not quite understanding but sensing the significance. Does this mean we're rich, Daddy? Not rich, baby, just less poor. But it means good things, better things. Can we get a cat? Of all the possibilities, that's where her mind went. Maybe, let's talk to the landlord. And can we take Ms. Elizabeth to that restaurant she likes? The Italian one? As a thank you? I think Ms. Elizabeth would like that very much. When the money hit his account a week later, Michael paid off every bill he'd been carrying. Medical debt, credit cards, the loan for Lily's wheelchair, everything. He called creditors and made final payments and watched his credit score tick upward for the first time in years. The freedom of it was almost overwhelming. Then he went to a jewelry store. Not the fancy ones downtown where Elizabeth probably bought her own pieces, but a small family-owned shop in the North End where the owner's grandmother had started the business 70 years ago. I need a ring, he told the jeweler, an older man with kind eyes, for a proposal. But I need it to mean something, not just look expensive. Tell me about her. Michael did. Talked about Elizabeth's brilliance and her grief, her steel exterior and soft heart. The way she looked at Lily like she'd been given a second chance at saving her sister. The jeweler listened, nodding occasionally, until Michael ran out of words. I know exactly what you need, the man said. He brought out a ring, white gold band with 3 small stones, 1 emerald flanked by 2 diamonds. The emerald for her eyes, which you mentioned about 6 times, the jeweler said with a smile. The diamonds for you and your daughter. 3 stones, 3 lives, becoming 1 family. He quoted a price that made Michael wince but not panic. Affordable. Possible. It's perfect, Michael said. When are you proposing? Christmas, if I can wait that long. He couldn't, actually. The ring burned a hole in his pocket for 3 days before he couldn't take it anymore. It was a Tuesday evening, nothing special, when Elizabeth came over after work to find Michael had cooked dinner, actual cooked dinner, not takeout, and Lily was bouncing with barely contained excitement. What's going on? Elizabeth asked suspiciously. You both look like you're hiding something. We are hiding something, Lily announced, but I can't tell you what because Daddy said it's a surprise and I have to wait until after dinner, even though I'm terrible at waiting. Elizabeth looked at Michael, eyebrows raised. He just smiled and handed her a glass of wine. Dinner was simple, pasta and salad, nothing fancy, but Michael had used one of Catherine's recipes. He'd asked Lily to help him find it in Elizabeth's box of memories, and together they'd made the disaster pasta Catherine had invented decades ago. Too much garlic, weird spice combinations, but somehow it worked. Elizabeth took 1 bite and froze. How did you... Lily and I broke into your townhouse and stole your sister's recipe box. At her horrified expression, he laughed. I'm kidding. You left it here last week. We asked permission by text. You said yes. I don't remember that. You were in back-to-back meetings and answered without reading, but we have screenshots to prove consent. He watched her taste another bite, saw tears gathering in her eyes. Is it okay? Using her recipe? It's more than okay. It's... Elizabeth's voice broke. It's Catherine at this table with us. It's her being part of this family. Thank you. They ate Catherine's pasta and talked about Lily's upcoming science fair and Elizabeth's latest FDA meeting, and Michael waited until Lily had gone to brush her teeth before he pulled out the ring box. Elizabeth saw it and went completely still. Michael, before you say anything, let me talk. He opened the box, showing her the emerald and diamonds. This isn't much compared to what you're used to. I can't compete with your world, your lifestyle, any of that. But what I can offer is every single day, showing up, loving you, and choosing you, and building this life with you. His hands were shaking. I can offer you a family, not perfect, because Lily's always going to have medical issues, and I'm always going to be basically broke, and our lives are messy and complicated and sometimes terrifying. But Elizabeth, we're your family if you want us. Officially. Legally. Forever. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Elizabeth Catherine Armstrong, will you marry me? Will you take on a broke nurse and his sick kid and the whole complicated mess that comes with us? Will you let us love you for the rest of our lives? Yes. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, of course, yes. Did you really think I might say no? I worried. He slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands. You could have anyone. Why settle for me? Because you're not settling. You're choosing. Every day you choose to show up, to fight, to love hard even when it's scary. That's not settling, Michael. That's everything. She pulled him close, kissing him thoroughly. You're everything. You and Lily. You're the family I thought I'd never have. Daddy, did she say yes? Lily's shriek came from the bathroom. She said yes! Lily came running, toothbrush still in her mouth, and launched herself at them both. They caught her together, the three of them laughing and crying and holding on tight. I knew it, Lily said smugly. I told you she'd say yes. Now we can be a real family. We were already a real family, Elizabeth said, pulling her close. This just makes it official. Does this mean you're going to be my mom? Elizabeth looked at Michael over Lily's head, panic flickering in her eyes. He nodded slightly. Your choice, whatever you want. If you want me to be, Elizabeth said carefully. I know I'm not your birth mom, and I'm not trying to replace anyone, but I love you very much and I'd be honored to be your mom, in whatever way feels right to you. I want you to be my mom, Lily said firmly. My birth mom didn't want me because I'm sick, but you want me even though I'm sick. That makes you the real mom. Elizabeth broke down completely then, holding Lily and sobbing into her hair. Michael wrapped his arms around both of them, this instant family that had formed from wreckage and storms, and the simple act of choosing not to walk past someone who needed help. Later, after Lily had finally gone to bed, Elizabeth and Michael sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder, the ring catching lamplight on her finger. I need to tell you something, Elizabeth said quietly. Should I be worried? No, but you should know what you're getting into. Marrying me means marrying Armstrong Biomedical. It means board meetings and pharmaceutical conferences and probably being in the public eye more than you'd like. It means photographers and gossip columns and people judging our relationship. Because I'm not rich enough for you? There was no heat in the question, just curiosity. Because some people are going to say I'm taking advantage of you, that I used my position as Lily's doctor to manipulate you into this relationship, that this is unethical and inappropriate. She turned to look at him. It's going to be ugly sometimes, Michael. Are you ready for that? Are you asking if I'm going to back out when things get hard? I'm asking if you understand what you're signing up for. Michael took her hand, running his thumb over the ring he'd put there. I'm signing up for you. All of you. The brilliant CEO, the grieving sister, the woman who stress organizes my spice cabinet at 2 a.m. I'm signing up for complicated and messy and sometimes ugly because the alternative is not having you at all. He kissed her temple. Let them judge. Let them talk. We know the truth. And what's the truth? That you saved my life as surely as I saved yours. That we built this family through choosing each other every single day, that whatever comes, we face it together. Elizabeth curled closer to him. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. Something will go wrong, probably lots of somethings. That's life. How are you not terrified? Who says I'm not? I'm scared every second. Scared of losing Lily, scared of losing you, scared of this happiness being temporary. He pulled her tighter. But I'm more scared of missing out on this because I was too afraid to try. So I'm choosing to be terrified and happy at the same time. That's very wise. I learned it from an 8-year-old kidney patient. She's pretty smart. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to Boston hum outside the windows. Finally, Elizabeth stirred. I should go home. Let you sleep. Stay. The word came out before Michael could think. Stay tonight. In my room. Properly. No more going home to that empty townhouse. Stay with us. Michael, Lily, knows we're getting married. She's been asking when you're moving in since approximately 20 minutes after we started dating. He stood, pulling her up with him. Stay. Be part of this family officially. Wake up with us. Have breakfast together. Help me remember Lily's medications. Be here. Elizabeth looked around the small apartment, shabby and cramped and nothing like her world, and smiled. Okay, yes, I'll stay. She texted her assistant to bring clothes in the morning, borrowed one of Michael's shirts to sleep in, and followed him to his bedroom. They lay together in his too small bed, wrapped around each other, and for the first time in 23 years, Elizabeth Armstrong fell asleep feeling like she'd finally come home. In the other room, Lily hugged her fighting kidney and dreamed of being a bridesmaid at her father's wedding, walking down an aisle scattering kidney-shaped confetti, because even dreams deserved a little scientific accuracy. And somewhere in this city, in boardrooms and hospitals and family homes, people slept unaware that a nurse and a CEO had just promised to love each other through sickness and health, through crisis and calm, through all the messy, beautiful, impossible days ahead. The future was uncertain. Lily's health was fragile. The world would judge them harshly. But for this one perfect moment, wrapped in each other's arms in a tiny apartment, they had everything that mattered. They had each other. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. The news broke 3 days after the engagement. Someone at the hospital had seen the ring, made assumptions, and within hours, biotech CEO Elizabeth Armstrong, engaged a patient's father, was trending on medical ethics Twitter. The comments were brutal, dissecting their relationship with the cold precision of a coroner's autopsy. Michael first saw it when Marcus shoved his phone in his face during their shift. "Don't read the comments. I'm serious, hermano. Don't do it." Of course, Michael read them anyway. The accusations ranged from mildly offensive to outright vicious. Elizabeth had used her position to seduce a vulnerable parent. Michael was a gold digger taking advantage of a lonely billionaire. They'd exploited a sick child for personal gain. The whole relationship was unethical, inappropriate, probably illegal. "It's garbage," Marcus said firmly. "Twitter trolls who don't know anything about your life." But the damage was spreading beyond social media. By noon, Michael's phone was ringing with calls from Boston Globe reporters wanting statements. Elizabeth texted that the hospital's ethics committee had requested a meeting. Dr. Okonkwo sent a carefully worded message suggesting they might need to transfer Lily's care to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Michael made it through his shift on autopilot, then drove to Armstrong Biomedical, where Elizabeth was locked in crisis management meetings. Patricia let him up immediately, her usual professional warmth replaced by tight-lipped worry. "She's been in there for 3 hours," Patricia said quietly. "The board is concerned about optics, stock prices, investor confidence." Because she fell in love? Michael felt rage building in his chest. That's what they're worried about? They're worried about lawsuits, about regulatory scrutiny, about anything that might threaten the company or the trials. Patricia's expression softened. "For what it's worth, I think you're wonderful together. I've worked for Ms. Armstrong for 12 years, and I've never seen her this happy." The conference room door opened, and Elizabeth emerged looking like she'd aged 5 years and 3 hours. Her hair had escaped its bun, her makeup was smudged, and her eyes held a particular kind of exhaustion that came from fighting battles you weren't sure you could win. "Michael," she crossed to him immediately. "You shouldn't be here. The optics. Screw the optics." He pulled her close, right there in the executive suite where anyone could see. "Are you okay?" "The board wants me to make a statement, clarify the timeline of our relationship, emphasize that Lily's care wasn't compromised, probably throw in an apology for the appearance of impropriety." Her voice cracked slightly. "They want me to act ashamed of loving you." "What did you tell them?" "That I'd think about it." She pulled back to look at him. "Michael, maybe we should postpone the wedding. Let things cool down. Give people time to forget." "No." The word came out harder than he intended. "We're not hiding. We're not apologizing for falling in love. And we're definitely not letting Twitter trolls dictate our lives. But the hospital ethics committee can transfer Lily's care if they want. We'll find another doctor. There are other hospitals, other protocols. What we can't find is another you." He cupped her face. "Elizabeth, I didn't propose so we could hide. I proposed because I want to build a life with you. Publicly. Proudly. Without apology. It could destroy everything I've built. The company, my reputation, the research. Then we'll build something new. Together." He kissed her forehead. "But I won't let you sacrifice our family because some people can't understand that love doesn't follow convenient timelines or professional boundaries." Elizabeth's phone buzzed. Another reporter. Another request for comment. She silenced it with shaking hands. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I've spent my whole career maintaining perfect control, perfect image. Now everything's unraveling, and I don't know how to fix it." "Maybe it doesn't need fixing. Maybe it just needs honesty." "What do you mean?" Michael thought about the hospital room where they'd met, about late-night texts and shared grief and the slow building of trust between two people who'd been alone too long. "Tell the truth. Not a carefully crafted PR statement. The real story. How we met. How we fell in love. How Lily brought us together. Let people see the humans behind the headlines. That's terrifying. So is loving someone. We're already doing the scary thing. This is just more of it. Elizabeth leaned against him, drawing strength from his steadiness. Okay, I'll write something. But Michael, if this backfires, if we lose everything, we won't lose each other. That's all that matters. That evening, Elizabeth posted a statement on Armstrong Biomedical's website. Not a corporate press release, but a letter written in her own words, telling their story from the crash to the engagement. She talked about Catherine's death, about building a company from grief, about the night a nurse saved her life and somehow along the way saved her heart too. She acknowledged the ethical complications, detailed the timeline to prove nothing inappropriate had occurred during Lily's acute care, and then finished with a paragraph that made Michael's throat close when he read it. I've spent 23 years trying to save my sister through science, but Michael Hayes and his daughter, Lily, saved me in ways no research ever could. They taught me that healing isn't just about protocols and clinical trials. It's about connection, vulnerability, and having the courage to love even when the outcome is uncertain. I won't apologize for that. I won't hide that. And I won't let fear of judgment prevent me from building the family I've wanted since I was 19 years old and holding my sister's hand while she died. If that costs me my reputation, so be it. Some things are worth more than public opinion. The response was immediate and divided. Half the internet praised her honesty. The other half doubled down on criticism. Medical ethicists wrote op-eds. Patient advocacy groups weighed in. Armstrong Biomedical's stock price fluctuated wildly. But something unexpected happened. Parents of children in clinical trials started sharing their own stories about the doctors who'd become family, about relationships that formed in crisis, about how illness blurred professional boundaries in ways that weren't always wrong. A prominent transplant surgeon wrote a Twitter thread about the impossibility of maintaining perfect emotional distance when caring for dying children. Dr. Okonkwo gave an interview defending Elizabeth's integrity and Michael's devotion to Lily's care. The tide began to shift. 3 days after Elizabeth's statement, the hospital ethics committee closed their investigation with a finding of no evidence of misconduct. Dr. Chen called personally to say Lily's care could continue as planned. The New England Journal of Medicine published a commentary about the need for nuance when evaluating relationships that form in medical contexts. Armstrong Biomedical's stock price stabilized, then climbed. "We survived," Elizabeth said in wonder, curled up on Michael's couch with her laptop showing positive news coverage. "I can't believe we actually survived." "Did you doubt we would?" "Yes, constantly. I kept waiting for everything to collapse." She turned to look at him. "How did you stay so calm?" "Because I've survived worse. Sarah leaving, Lily's diagnosis, years of barely scraping by." He pulled her closer. "A few nasty articles? That's nothing compared to watching your daughter stop breathing in the ICU. We've already faced the worst things. Everything else is just noise." Lily emerged from her bedroom, kidney plushie in hand. "Are people still being mean on the internet?" "Some people," Elizabeth admitted, "but a lot of people are being nice now." "Good. Because you're getting married and I need to plan what I'm wearing. Can I have a dress with kidneys on it?" "Absolutely not," Michael said. "We'll see," Elizabeth said at the same time. They looked at each other and laughed, the tension of the past week finally breaking. "When are we getting married anyway?" Lily asked. "You proposed like a month ago and nothing's happened." "We've been a little busy with ethics investigations and public relations disasters," Michael said dryly. "Those are just excuses. Ms. Elizabeth, when do you want to get married?" Elizabeth went quiet, that distant look crossing her face that Michael had learned meant she was thinking about Catherine. "My sister always wanted a spring wedding. She had this whole fantasy planned out, cherry blossoms, outdoor ceremony, her favorite season." "Then we'll do spring," Michael said immediately. "Michael, that's only 3 months away. We'd never pull together a wedding that fast." "Why not? We don't need fancy. We just need the people we love and someone to make it legal. But a venue, catering, flowers, all the details. I know an excellent event planner who happens to be a billionaire CEO. I bet she could figure it out." Elizabeth smiled despite herself. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. We love each other. We want to get married. Everything else is just logistics. Can we have kidney-shaped cookies at the reception? Lily asked hopefully. Now that, Elizabeth said, is non-negotiable. Absolutely yes to kidney cookies. Planning the wedding became a welcome distraction from lingering controversy. Elizabeth threw herself into it with the same intensity she brought to clinical trials, creating spreadsheets and timelines and backup plans. Michael mostly stayed out of her way, offering opinions when asked, but largely trusting her vision. This is your day too, Elizabeth protested when he approved her fifth venue option without comment. My day is marrying you. I don't care if we do it in a parking lot or a palace. But don't you have preferences? Things you've dreamed about? Michael thought about Sarah, about the rushed courthouse wedding when they discovered she was pregnant, about signing divorce papers 3 years later in that same courthouse. Honestly, I just want it to feel real this time. I want Lily there, happy and healthy. I want Marcus standing up with me. I want to look at you and know we chose this, we built this, we earned this. That's beautiful, Elizabeth said, eyes bright with tears. That's just honesty. They settled on the Boston Public Garden for early April, cherry blossoms and swan boats, and the kind of public declaration that made it clear they weren't hiding. Small guest list, just family and close friends, because both Michael and Elizabeth had learned that quality mattered more than quantity. But as winter turned toward spring and wedding plans solidified, Lily's health became an increasing concern. Her kidney function was declining again, slowly but measurably. Nothing acute, but the trend was undeniable. Dr. Okonkwo increased her medications, adjusted protocols, and started gently preparing them for the possibility of dialysis. How long? Michael asked during a private consultation while Lily was getting blood drawn. Hard to say. Could be months, could be years. Bodies are unpredictable. Dr. Okonkwo's expression was kind but honest. We'll keep fighting for every day we can get. But Michael, you should start preparing Lily. And yourself. That night, after Lily was asleep, Michael found Elizabeth in his kitchen stress-organizing cabinets. Talk to me, he said. About what? About whatever's making you reorganize my canned goods at 11 p.m. She set down a can of soup with shaking hands. I can't save her. All my research, all my money, all my connections, none of it matters. Her kidney is failing and I can't stop it. No, you can't. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Neither can I. Neither can Dr. Okonkwo or anyone else. That's not a failure. That's just reality with chronic illness. Then what do? We love her. We give her the best life we can for however long we have. We get married in the spring and let her throw kidney-shaped confetti. We make memories that matter. His voice roughened. We hold on tight and trust that whatever happens, we'll face it together. I'm so scared, Michael. Me too. Every second of every day. How do you function like this? How do you work and plan a wedding and act normal when you're terrified your daughter is dying? Because the alternative is falling apart, and Lily needs me functional. He pulled back to look at her. She needs us both functional. So we take it one day at a time. We celebrate the good days and survive the bad ones. We don't borrow tomorrow's pain when we have enough to deal with today. Elizabeth nodded against his chest. I love you, even when I'm terrible at this. You're not terrible. You're learning. There's a difference. 2 weeks before the wedding, Lily woke up vomiting. Not the normal nausea from medications, but violent, painful retching that wouldn't stop. Michael rushed her to the ER at 4 a.m, Elizabeth meeting them there still in pajamas, and they spent 6 hours in limbo while doctors ran tests. Severe uremia, Dr. Okonkwo finally reported. Her kidney function has dropped to 12%. Michael, Elizabeth, it's time. She needs dialysis. The words hit like bullets. 12%. That number that meant imminent kidney failure, meant quality of life about to plummet, meant they'd officially run out of time. How soon? Michael asked, voice flat. We'll place a catheter today, start peritoneal dialysis training tomorrow. She can do it at home, overnight while she sleeps. Dr. Okonkwo touched his arm gently. I'm sorry. I know this isn't the news you wanted. After the doctor left, Michael and Elizabeth sat in the waiting room, holding hands so tightly their knuckles turned white. We should postpone the wedding, Elizabeth said finally. No. Michael, be reasonable. Lily's starting dialysis in 2 days. She's going to feel terrible. She won't want to. We're not postponing. He turned to face her. Do you know what Lily's been most excited about for the last 2 months? Not the dress, or the flowers, or the kidney cookies. She's excited about you officially becoming her mom. About us being a real family on paper, not just in our hearts. We're not taking that away from her because her body is failing again. But if she's too sick to enjoy it, then we'll push her down the aisle in a wheelchair with an IV pole. We'll have the ceremony last 10 minutes so she doesn't get exhausted. We'll do whatever we need to do. His voice cracked. But we're not postponing her hope, Elizabeth. We're not telling her that her health gets to steal this moment from her, too. Elizabeth's face crumpled. What if she doesn't make it to spring? The fear they'd both been avoiding, spoken aloud in a sterile waiting room. Then we'll have given her something beautiful to hold on to at the end, Michael said, forcing the words past the lump in his throat. We'll have shown her that love is stronger than disease, that families choose each other, that some promises are worth keeping no matter what. I can't lose her, Michael. I can't watch another little girl die. I know, but we might not get a choice about that. What we do get to choose is how we love her while we have her. They held each other and cried in that waiting room, two people who thought they were done with lost learning, that you never really finished grieving until the final goodbye. Lily took the dialysis news with the stoic acceptance of a child who'd grown up navigating medical crises. Does this mean I have to miss the wedding? Absolutely not, Michael said firmly. Can I still wear my kidney dress? Yes, but maybe with a cardigan to cover the catheter site. Deal. Will I feel sick? Probably, for a while, but your body will adjust. Okay. She picked up her fighting kidney plushie. Then I guess we fight harder. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Dialysis training consumed their days, learning to set up the machine, monitor fluid exchanges, watch for infection. Lily felt nauseated constantly, exhausted from the nightly treatments, frustrated by the tubes and restrictions. Michael took more leave from work. Elizabeth started working from his apartment, laptop set up at the kitchen table, conducting board meetings via video while simultaneously helping Lily with homework. 3 days before the wedding, Marcus found Michael in the hospital break room, head in his hands. Talk to me, hermano. I don't know if I can do this. Get married while my daughter is on dialysis. Smile for photos when her kidneys are failing. Pretend everything's fine when nothing is fine. Who said you have to pretend? Marcus sat beside him. Michael, that little girl has watched you be strong her entire life. Maybe it's time to show her that strong people also struggle, that you can be scared and broken and still show up for the people you love. What if she gets worse? What if something happens at the wedding? Then you'll deal with it, like you always do. But you don't get to steal this moment from her or from yourself because you're afraid of what might happen. Fear doesn't get to win this one. Michael looked at his friend, this man who'd stood beside him through deployments and divorces and medical nightmares. Will you be my best man? Officially? I thought you'd never ask. Although I'm telling you right now, my speech is going to make everyone cry. I'd expect nothing less. The night before the wedding, Elizabeth stayed over as she had most nights for the past month. They put Lily to bed early, setting up her dialysis machine with practiced efficiency, making sure she was comfortable before retreating to the living room. Last night, as not married people, Elizabeth said, curled against Michael on the couch. Having second thoughts? About marrying you? Never. About whether we're doing this right, whether Lily should really be pushed through this when she feels so terrible, whether I'm selfish for wanting this day, always. Elizabeth. He tilted her face up. Tomorrow, you become Lily's mom, legally, officially, permanently. That's not selfish. That's the most generous thing anyone's ever done for her. For us. What if I'm terrible at it, being a mom? You've been her mom for months already. This just makes it official. But what if she needs something I can't give? What if I fail her the way I failed Catherine? You didn't fail Catherine. Disease failed Catherine. Medical science failed Catherine. You were 19 years old and did everything humanly possible. He pulled her closer. And you won't fail Lily. Not because you'll be perfect. Nobody's perfect. but because you love her enough to keep trying even when you mess up. That's all any parent can do. They sat in comfortable silence until Elizabeth's phone buzzed, her assistant with last-minute wedding logistics. As she typed responses, Michael watched her, this brilliant, broken, beautiful woman who'd somehow chosen to build a life with him, and felt gratitude so intense it hurt. "Hey, Elizabeth? Thank you for saying yes, for staying, for loving us even though we're complicated." She set down her phone, eyes suspiciously bright. "Thank you for saving my life. In every way, someone can be saved." They went to bed early, knowing tomorrow would be long and emotional and probably chaotic. Michael fell asleep holding the woman he'd pulled from a wrecked car 6 months ago, marveling at how a rainy October night had led them here. Wedding day dawned clear and unseasonably warm, cherry blossoms just starting to bloom in the public garden. Michael woke to find his apartment transformed. Patricia had arrived at dawn with a team of assistants, setting up flowers and food, and somehow making his shabby living room look almost elegant. "Ms. Armstrong insisted everything be perfect," Patricia explained, directing workers with military precision. "Now, go shower. You have 2 hours before we need to leave." Lily was already awake, too excited to sleep despite feeling terrible from her overnight dialysis. Elizabeth had arranged for a hair and makeup team to come to the apartment, and they fussed over Lily like she was royalty, carefully working around her catheter site. "Look, Daddy!" Lily spun in her kidney-patterned dress, custom-made by a designer Elizabeth had commissioned. "I'm fancy." "You're beautiful, baby girl." "Where's Mom?" The word came out naturally, like Lily had been practicing. "Is she getting ready at her house?" "Mom." Michael's throat tightened. "Yeah, she'll meet us at the garden." Marcus arrived with his family, helped Michael into his suit, and stood back critically. "Not bad for a broke nurse." "This suit costs more than my car." Elizabeth insisted. "And you look good in it. Try not to cry during the ceremony." No promises. They transported Lily carefully to the public garden, her IV pole cleverly disguised with flowers, her fatigue hidden behind excitement. The ceremony site was simple but beautiful. White chairs arranged under blooming trees, small crowd of people who mattered most. Dr. Okonkwo was there, and Dr. Chen, several nurses from the hospital. Elizabeth's board members sat stiffly in the back, probably still unsure about this whole situation. But in the front row, Marcus's family and Mrs. Chen from down the hall, the jeweler who'd sold Michael the ring, Patricia dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Then Elizabeth appeared, and Michael forgot to breathe. She wore a simple ivory dress, hair down around her shoulders carrying a bouquet of cherry blossoms. No designer gown, no elaborate veil, just Elizabeth, walking toward him with tears already streaming down her face. "Hi," she said when she reached him. "Hi yourself. You look like I've been crying for an hour." "I know, I couldn't stop. I kept thinking about Catherine, about how she'd love this, about how I wish she could be here." "She is here," Lily piped up from her seat, "in spirit, and also in the kidney cookies at the reception." That broke the tension. Everyone laughed, and the officiant, a judge who'd agreed to perform the ceremony as a personal favor to Elizabeth, stepped forward. "We're gathered here today to witness something remarkable. Not just a wedding, but the formation of a family that chose each other through hardship, built trust through crisis, and discovered that love doesn't always follow convenient paths." The ceremony was brief, as promised. Traditional vows that felt anything but traditional when spoken by two people who'd learned exactly what, in sickness and in health, truly meant. Michael slipped a band on Elizabeth's finger to match her engagement ring. Elizabeth gave him a platinum band engraved with coordinates, the exact location where his car had stopped, where he'd seen her wreck, where everything had changed. "You saved my life that night," she said, voice shaking. "Every day since has been a gift you gave me." "You saved mine too. You just took a little longer to do it." When the judge pronounced them married, Lily cheered louder than anyone, throwing kidney-shaped confetti with both hands despite looking exhausted. The crowd surged forward with congratulations, and for a few perfect hours they celebrated. Kidney cookies were a huge hit. Marcus's speech did indeed make everyone cry. Dr. Okonkwo toasted to the power of choosing love despite professional complications. But Michael noticed Elizabeth checking on Lily constantly, saw worry creeping into his new wife's eyes as their daughter grew progressively paler. We should go, Elizabeth murmured during the cake cutting. Already? We haven't even... Michael, look at her. Get up. Lily had fallen asleep in her chair, head on Mrs. Chen's shoulder, too exhausted to stay awake through her own mother's wedding reception. They made quiet goodbyes, collected their sleeping daughter, and drove home as a family for the first time. Marcus helped them get Lily inside and settled while Patricia directed cleanup of the apartment. Welcome to married life, Marcus said, hugging them both. It's all glamour from here. After everyone left, Michael and Elizabeth sat on either side of Lily's bed, watching her sleep. She'd made it through the day, but barely. The wedding had taken everything she had. Worth it? Michael asked quietly. Every second. Elizabeth reached across Lily to take his hand. Today, we became a family, officially. Nothing can take that away from us now. Not even... He couldn't finish the sentence. Not even that, Elizabeth said firmly. Whatever comes, we face it as a family. That's what today meant. Over the next month, they settled into their new reality. Elizabeth moved into Michael's apartment, refusing to make them relocate to her townhouse because Lily was comfortable here, had friends in the building, needed stability. So the billionaire CEO crammed her life into 2 small bedrooms and learned to navigate a kitchen smaller than her old closet. This is insane, she said one morning, trying to maneuver around Michael while making coffee. We need more space. We need a lot of things. Space ranks pretty low on the list. What ranks higher? A functioning kidney for Lily. Another year of remission, maybe 2. Elizabeth went quiet. Lily had been on dialysis for 6 weeks now, and the toll was visible. Weight loss, constant fatigue, the particular kind of sickness that came from your blood slowly poisoning you. They'd listed her for transplant again, but the wait was long and her antibody profile made matching difficult. I've been researching paired donations, Elizabeth said carefully, where one person donates to a stranger so their loved one gets a matching kidney from another donor in the chain. Elizabeth, I'm not a match for her. My blood type is wrong, but I could donate to someone else, start a chain that eventually leads to Lily getting a kidney. Michael set down his coffee cup. That's major surgery, weeks of recovery, risk to your health. I don't care if there's a chance. No, he said it firmly. Absolutely not. You don't get to decide this for me. I'm not deciding for you. I'm telling you that I won't risk losing both of you. He pulled her close. Elizabeth, I need you here. Healthy. Able to help with Lily's care. I can't do this alone, and I sure as hell can't do it while worrying about your surgical complications. But if we don't find a kidney soon, then we keep her on dialysis and we wait. That's all we can do. Elizabeth pulled away, frustrated.